Who? Adam Sartain? God knows.
Okay.
So, hi guys, we are now on Mr. Sci-Fi and the table. Hello, everybody. How are you doing?
Hello.
Hi.
Pretty good.
Good. Excellent. So,
Look at my new T-shirt.
that,
ASPCCA T-shirt.
great, terrific.
Cool.
That's it looks very, very good.
But
So-
you're so dark. Is there any way to put any light on you?
I will get a
Dips
new light
Comedy
this
Club.
week.
Yes.
Okay,
Sounds good.
I'm gonna get a ring light.
Yes, that sounds good.
Well, anything, even a flashlight. So, because right now you look like you're a silhouette.
Okay.
You're a
Yes.
silhouette.
So, okay. So here we are. So why don't we start with you, Heidi, since we see you on the screen? How are you
Well,
doing?
What about Judith?
What?
She's the first.
Well, did you? Oh, Elaine wants to do Judith instead. So sorry about that.
No,
So Judith, do you
Judith
want to
is
take your
top of
turn?
the
Go
screen.
for it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
sure.
okay.
I'm excited. I did my demo today.
great.
yay!
Terrific.
I finally did it, and I want to give a shout out to Karen Crane, who makes me look like I've had plastic surgery.
Great.
There's a picture on Facebook. I looked at it, I said, is that me?
Hmm.
Jeez.
That's
And
great.
David Bartlett, who helped me, and Xavier, who he recommended, and Scotty Baker.
Great.
Oh, great.
Thanks for everybody's support and encouragement. And to underline, and David Edison, but to underline, that's what the table is all about.
Great.
So
Yay.
thank you guys, and thank everybody.
Terrific. Terrific.
It's the last day of the year, and I finally got something done.
Good.
Yay.
Good.
You did it before summer ran out.
Yeah.
Last day
No,
was the summer.
Yeah.
Terrific. So
Well,
great.
Congratulations.
So anything else you
Thank
need?
We'll see how it turned out. It seemed to turn, I don't know from on camera. Voiceover, yeah, but on camera,
Okay.
Find out. Well, that's exciting, though. Good for
And hi,
you.
Mr. Sci-Fi guys. So great. Well, great. So anything else, Judith? Anything else you need?
No, I've been just so busy with the demo, writing and schlepping and buying food for everybody and learning the lines and doing
Yep.
the beats and all that stuff.
Got it.
Next week.
Okay. Cool. Yay. 3 cheers. So hi, Adam. Do you have a Mr. Sci-Fi question?
I do have a Mr. Sci-Fi question.
Great.
Starting off with Hayes 494.
Great.
Who says great commentary
Thanks.
on Tarkovsky.
Thanks.
Have you ever seen his film Stalker or Nostalgia?
Yes, I've seen both those films. They didn't appeal to me as well as Solaris did. I think because Solaris has such a strong through line of a love story and a ghost story, that really got me. Interestingly enough, on Stalker, that's based on a Roadside Picnic by the Stakatsky brothers, and I was actually approached to adapt that to a feature many years ago. I don't know if it was before or after Tarkovsky's version. It was certainly before I ever saw it, and so I actually did an outline for that, adapting that into a movie, and God knows where it is. It didn't move forward, but it was certainly a very, very interesting novel, and of course was highly influential on The Arrival, both the novel and the movie. So interesting stuff. So let's see. So now we can do you, Heidi. Go for it.
Oh, hello. I'm Heidi Miro. I am a current longer transcriber for a reality show, and I've been super busy this week just transcribing.
I'm not able to hear you.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Susan. Can you hear us? She can't hear us.
Oh, dear. You can't hear us, Susan?
Nope, you can't hear us, huh? That's weird.
Usually it's the other way around.
Maybe there's a way to send her an email or a text that says, stop interrupting people.
No,
So
to find out. No, I wonder if I don't know. Can't imagine what's wrong. So-
it could be the God knows. Anyway, Heidi, continue, please, and then if Susan interrupts again, we'll throw her out.
I don't know
So
if we can contact her
I
somehow.
can't hear. I don't hear anything. How do I do that?
fuck
Huh.
knows.
Huh. Oh, goody. I can see Judith. Yay.
I'll chat with her.
Okay, great.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Thank
So
you.
and Judith, yeah, there it
Judith,
goes.
there you
Great.
are.
That's
Yay.
great.
It's not
That's
pretend
much better.
Judith.
And I always said with every light,
Great.
It was like, and the Lord
Thank
said,
you.
"Come forth," and I came fifth to one or two times.
Great. There you go.
Yay, there
Okay,
you
so
go.
Heidi, now at
Please.
last, take your turn, please.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I was saying that my job is to log and transcribe raw footage. So I've been having a busy week because we're trying to churn out episodes as quickly as possible. So I'm keeping busy, and I'm super excited to help on Space Command probably in October.
Great.
So
Yeah.
I'll have to wait and see when I'll be available, but for sure.
Great.
Sometime on the weekends.
Swell. There's a lot of very cool stuff coming up. Tons and tons of neat things. So great. Anything else you need?
What's the big objective?
You're the big objective. What's your big goal?
What's
You
the
know what?
big
I'm
goal?
still figuring it out.
Aha.
great.
Okay, great. Well, anything else?
Oh, that is all.
Okay. Yay. 3
Yay.
cheers. So, Adam, another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes, let's go to there we go. Question from Aloran Vulcan,
Aha.
who asks, how do you guys feel about Star Trek D&D, or Dungeons and Dragons?
I don't know anything about it. I, of course, came up with stuff for the animated Dungeons and Dragons back in the day, but that's about all I know. So sorry about that. But I know a lot about Star Trek, the TV shows. I know a lot of some things about the novels, some things about the comic books, etc., and the audiobooks, of course. So okay, great. So Adam, why don't we take your turn since you're on our screen next?
Can you hear us?
Yes,
Yes.
Susan, we can hear you.
Remember, it's in the middle of the night for Paul.
Yes,
right.
I know, but on our screen, after Adam, Paul is the next one. We know. So
Have we gotten?
Let me just take a look.
Do we have the Susan thing straightened out yet? Susan, can you hear us yet?
no, she can't.
So go to someone else. I'll
Okay.
keep,
Right. Okay,
so
Paul, why don't you take your
Hey,
turn?
Paul,
Yes, Paul, go for it.
welcome to our side of the world.
Hello. Good
Hello.
evening.
Hi.
I know I'm not a great deal to report at the minute. And I might be here next week because my computer is going in it very early in the morning to have it.
Mhm.
So Susan's still playing with her. Unmute your thing, Susan.
Yeah.
Sound.
Yeah. There we go.
So there's just not a lot. There's a friend of mine might be popping in later,
Mhm.
Steve Balderson. He's a great guy. He's a director.
Great.
Damien Jarrett and I have both worked on his movies together.
Cool.
So I think we all missed out on Elaine's birthday as well.
Well, yeah. Well, both of our birthdays.
Yes, we were all
Yeah.
on the way at Morrow
You had
Bay.
the ice cream.
Yes, but we definitely approve of belated presents, and
Yes.
so. But yeah, Elaine's birthday was August 21st. Mine was August 25th. We're 140 years old, and still
Not young.
going strong.
Yeah.
Still going strong. So, is there anything you need, Paul?
Apart from winning the lottery, so no, not really. I actually would have been coming back from LA yesterday.
Ah.
But
Sorry.
you're not. Yeah, there you go.
Great.
How are things on your side of the pond relating to COVID?
It's we're going back into lockdown now. So
Yeah. Yeah.
one of those things. And of course, we've got all the American governors now trying to tell us all about Brexit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh God.
So, but
Jesus.
that's your other story, your political one.
Yes. 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 So great. So anything else? Yeah. Yeah.
And by the way, I'm glad I reminded Adam about tonight.
Yes. Thank you, Adam. Thanks very
But
much.
there's nothing more to tell. So I won't be staying on too long because I'm up very early in the morning.
Sure. And one thing to mention to you, Paul, is that on Mr. Sci-Fi, I'm going to very shortly be doing a commentary about one of my favorite British science fiction writers, John Wyndham. And he's a wonderful writer, wrote Day of the Triffids and the Midwich Cuckoos and so forth. So keep an eye out for that because it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about his career. Really interesting guy.
Yeah,
The last movie I did, which was the Deadwall Chronicles,
Mhm.
that's just been accepted onto Amazon Prime.
Oh wow!
wow,
3 cheers! Yay!
yes,
Good
okay.
job. Good job. So, Adam, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yeah, but Adam was saying that was not the one.
Okay.
I keep having to mute them.
Yeah. Sure.
So yeah, keep on seeing Susan coming up.
I'm keeping an eye on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So Paul,
Oh wait.
well, Paul,
So
if your
let's
friend
see,
comes by,
let's go to.
Okay.
So that's temporarily.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. Let's go to Mark Lungo,
Hi, Mark.
whose question is: can you think of any works besides Solaris that do a good job of melding science fiction and the supernatural?
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting question. Magic Time does that, I think, well. It's a real nice balance between the supernatural or magic and science fiction. I'd have to think further. It's tricky. There aren't a lot of people doing it. I mean, and particularly ghost stories. At one point, I wanted to do a story about a ghost of an extraterrestrial who's stuck on Earth. You know, his flying saucer crashed some years ago, and it's his ghost that's haunting this place, like Roswell. But I haven't written that yet. But it's definitely an idea I've had.
Was that true about the British thing where the spaceships were buried? And
Oh yes, well yes, Quatermass and the Pit, which was a wonderful TV show in England and also made into a very, very good movie.
Thing goes back muted. Okay, we got the menu.
Oh, they're still mucking around. But Quatermass and the Pit was very, very good in that manner. So it was it dealt with the supernatural in that way. So it's very good. I highly recommend it. So okay, so let's see. Adam is still trying to get Susan Flakes up and running. So how about you, Thane? Why don't you take your turn?
Good evening, SAG after character actor here. The current news is on Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, I have a film playing on the We Make Movies International Film Festival.
Yay, okay.
Peggy.
Great.
You can log in for free, although it's suggested that you might want to make a small donation to help defray the cost of it.
Cool.
Normally this would be done in person, but as it turns out, we're still under pretty strict requirements here. It's a film done by an Italian writer and director. By night he's a physician, and by day he makes movies. And this film made best picture in more than 50 European film festivals, and so we're very proud of it. It's about a husband taking care of a wife who has Alzheimer's and is doing time travel.
Wow.
In her state. So
cool.
It's reminiscent of so many of my friends and colleagues that are slipping away day by day. And,
yes.
To play that role was a lot of heavy duty work on my part. It just was. She stayed in character the whole time, and it was absolutely exhausting. She would wander off, and I'd have to go find her when it was time for her scene and so on.
Wow, Jesus.
So it just, it's very poignant in trying to understand, for a lot of you, your parents or your grandparents, and one of the biggest problems we face in the healthcare system. So I'm glad to share that. I'll put it in the notes so you can get the links. You can tune in on YouTube or Facebook.
Great.
And join the four-way. There'll be 5 or 6 other films at the same time. Meanwhile, the Sunday the 30th, I have a 12-minute piece of my one-man show, Raising Kids. It Ain't Easy, coming up from the Whitefire Theater. They're using the salon as an approach to raise a little bit of money for the theater to keep it going. they still have to pay the rent and so on.
Hmm.
And I'll talk about that next time around.
Cool.
But in the meantime, staying healthy, doing some writing, and helping Dave out with a little bit of gathering props. My back door is stacked up now with all kinds of things that I've gathered up. And I realized the other day, I got a bunch of defunct smoke alarms that look like some interesting piece of something that could go.
Great.
And I've been given a few sheets of plywood that
Great.
I'm gonna haul out there. So once I get by this 2 performances here, particularly the live one, then I will be freed up a little bit, although the air makes it difficult to breathe.
Yes.
So anyway, thanks, and we'll continue on.
Yay! 3 cheers. Excellent. So is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam?
Yes, and we figured out the problem with Susan Flakes, so we're good there.
Great.
Yay.
Terrific. That's good.
They can hear us now. Yay.
Oh, good.
Let's go to Scott Baker,
Yay.
whose question is, how do you handle personal conflicts with people with whom you're in business? So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, it's very important to choose people to work with who aren't crazy. Okay. So it's very important, you know, if someone wants to hire you or someone wants to buy something of yours and they seem like real, you know, loose cannons, you say no. And that saves a world of grief. Go ahead.
But one of the most important things is if you let anger get entangled into
Yes.
disagreements,
Yes.
you've lost.
Right.
Because anytime somebody comes at me personally with anger or any sense of diminishment, I can't hear them very well.
Right.
I can't hear what they're saying. I just get the sense of attack, right? So the last thing you want to do is come at somebody with this underlying unnecessary emotion. I always go with people that I'm working with the assumption that we're all trying our best, but there isn't enough time and there aren't enough resources, and we're both fighting to do our best, but we're bumping heads because of that.
Right.
And so if you take out the you statements and you take out the emotion and you just say, okay, here's what I'm trying to do. Let me understand exactly what you're trying to do and try and really diffuse, really respect their efforts, respect their passion, and respect the fact that they're probably tired and overwhelmed because none of us have much money to work with. And the main thing is that you respect them as a person. Then you can get to what's going on and really listen, because they may actually have a better idea if you open up your mind than you did. And if you have a better idea, then explain yourself.
Yep. Okay. So, yeah. So, okay. So, Susan, why don't we take you now?
Yay.
Yay. Absolutely.
Okay. Unmute.
You have to unmute now.
Unmute. Okay. Yay.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Okay. Yay.
Chaos. Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
Okay. We have a question. This is my partner, Arthur.
Hello.
And we are co-producing the movie Undaunted.
Great.
And it looks like we might be filming in Syracuse.
Wow.
It's Syracuse film. It's a real exciting. I love New York. It's nice to go back to New York.
Yes.
That'll come in 2021.
Yes.
Anyway, we have a particular question that we wanted to ask about IMDb.
Yes.
Yes, I'm working on this production, and I need to get a IMDb Pro page and links and whatever else I'm supposed to be doing on there. And I don't know enough about it, so I probably need a consultant to do it. And I'm looking for some advice.
David Bartlett can advise you on that stuff. He knows all about it. So you guys can connect up afterwards.
Oh yeah, if we can get David's email, can we do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
On this
There he is.
Zoom.
Yes.
Yes.
I'd love to talk to David.
Okay. Great.
Okay. Great.
Is there anything else?
Well, I wanted to say, you guys, you recommended that I get to get an executive producer
Mhm.
that I look at the movies I really liked the last
Yes.
few years, and then to see. And I found a lot of producers I'm really interested in, and I made a list. I got there how to contact them, and I'm starting through that list. I haven't really given it a good start yet, but I
Mhm.
will. I got
Okay.
a list.
Good for you.
Great.
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 Okay.
So
No, it's so much more helpful because if you love them, there's a so much greater chance that they'll love you back.
Yes, and I do love every one of those movies I listed. And it was all black movies. I must have black blood, and I just don't know about it because I really get it, you know?
yes,
That's
yes,
great.
yes. Okay, great. So anything else you need?
No, thanks a lot.
Okay.
And
yay.
David Bartlett, if we could get your email, I'd be so happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. And so, Adam, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes, and David Bartlett just put his email in the chat. So,
Okay.
Great, terrific,
Great, thank you.
Where we see the chat.
terrific.
so for a question is from Craig Daniels,
Mhm.
who asks, do you think sci-fi in general has taken a step back, as in it's gotten too serious or lost the lightheartedness we all love? Storylines that are too dramatic and politically correct.
Well, it's gotten a lot darker. I mean, there are things like the Orville that have humor in them. There's, it's just, you kind of have to search out that sort of spirit. Space Command has that spirit of the science fiction from the 60s and so forth, the 50s and 60s, without being antiquated. You have to have it's a lightness of touch. I don't know if you want to respond to that, Elaine, if you have an idea about it.
No, things have gotten pretty dark, and unfortunately we heard some people running shows talk, and they were rather proud of the fact that they could like push boundaries toward greater cruelty. So that's we both find that.
And hang on, they muted it.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, good.
We both find that unfortunate. I mean, serious subjects are fine. Politically correct is fine for me, but the problem is that sometimes it sounds like a broadsheet.
Yeah.
And not really integrated into human behavior. So, I think it's like, hey, you treat people as people is a really damn important thing to be happening.
Mhm.
But if you start preaching about it, then it starts to feel unreal, and that's when it feels manipulated and politically correct or incorrect. So, yes, I think things are can be a little dicey, but there are still some really fun things out there.
Yes.
So I believe it's a mix, but it's a hard time. This COVID time is hard.
Yes, it is. It is. But but I think, I try and point out things that are delightful in terms of science fiction on Mr. Sci-Fi. So subscribing to that, you can definitely get a pointer toward a lot of very entertaining and not dreary things. I think that the nihilistic storylines of any kind get very wearing after a while. So great.
Especially if the characters are don't give a damn about it.
Yeah. So why don't we take Arena, because I know you're in New York or New Jersey, Arena. So go ahead, please, if you're there. Oh, where did she go? There you are. Hi, Arena. Go for it.
How's everything?
Good.
So, any improvement, or fires are still the worst?
They're getting conquered, but it's challenging.
Very, very slow, but the air is a little more breathable.
Yes.
It's interesting. The last couple of days here we had this overcast weather, but I don't think it's the clouds. I think it's the wind brought the smoke from the west coast.
Yes, it's true.
It's really, really unusual to observe that, because the skies, they just look gray, but you don't see actual clouds. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's an amazing time. And
yes, we had a bit of nuclear winter. We had it drop quite a few degrees when the smoke was at its worst.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, the temperature definitely dropped. Like there is suddenly now it feels like fall.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
And of course, you probably heard we had like an alien encounter this week in New Jersey.
No, what was that?
Yeah, it was really fascinating. And I literally just posted a joke last week. The only thing that 2020 is missing is aliens, and I'm like, welcome to Earth. Yeah,
wow.
I think yesterday a whole bunch of people posted UFO
Wow.
Just sitting there, and of course nobody knows what that is. Some people were theorizing there was some kind of a new plane that military been testing, because I didn't even know that New Jersey has 9 military bases. So
Wow.
it's really, really fascinating. But we have a whole bunch of witnesses.
Wow.
A lot of footage. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll have to Google it.
Yeah, this year just never ceases to surprise us. Huh?
Yes. Well, cool. Anything you need?
Yeah. Well, as far as my news concerned, I just finished shooting the second episode of the comedy series this past weekend.
Yeah, good.
And also really enjoyed the Solaris that you posted.
Yes.
I had no idea that this version even existed. I mean, obviously, I've been familiar with the Tarkovsky's Solaris, and Soderbergh as well.
Right.
And they're actually kind of a surprisingly similar, in the mood.
Yes.
Both movies, right?
Yes.
Which is very fascinating. But the one that you posted, that was 68, right?
Yeah.
That was even before Tarkovsky's.
Yeah, 4 years before Tarkovsky. Yes. And the thing that's interesting, I posted this video on Mr. Sci-Fi if those of you haven't checked it out, but it's one of my favorite novels is Solaris by Stanislaw Lem, who was an Eastern Bloc science fiction writer. And it's a great story about this alien entity that summons up the dead wife of a man whose wife committed suicide, and he feels guilt over it. And it's a love story and a ghost story and a science fiction story, and it's really wonderful. And there's a very famous film adaptation of it by Andrei Tarkovsky, and then it was made into an American version by Steve Soderbergh and George Clooney. And but I recently found out on YouTube that there was a 1968 Soviet version, 2-hour-long version, black and white, and I was able to put it up on Mr. Sci-Fi. So it's really interesting, very different tone, but it shows that the structure of the story really sustains. There's a lot of, it's really interesting to watch it. So I'm very glad that I could do that. And for those who can't get it with subtitles on Mr. Sci-Fi, I have a link there where you can jump to a version that is subtitled if you have any trouble watching it, unless of course you speak Russian. And then it's, then it's
luckily, I watched it and I'm like, oh, I still remember,
Yes.
Didn't forget it yet.
Well,
Yes.
well, most of us can't cheat.
Yeah. So is there anything else you need, Irina?
No, just
Okay.
popping up, to say hi and
Great.
Thank you for the great film. So.
Yay! 3 cheers. So Naomi, it's your turn. Go for it. Great.
Everybody, Naomi Pandolfi. I'm a writer, performer, producer, and a pitch deck developer. That's bi-coastal.
Cool.
And I'm going to be heading back to LA for a couple months in October, so I wanted to pop in and say hi again.
Great.
See how everyone was doing. Is everyone safe and okay? I hear there's a lot.
Yeah.
I saw a picture of a palm tree on fire.
No,
on
that's
a regular street. I was like,
no, we're fine. Everyone's fine.
Okay.
There aren't fires close upon Los Angeles. Okay.
Okay.
So a lot of it's in Northern California. Some of it's to the east of here, but nothing is really, right in our laps.
But where it's going, it's pretty nasty. It's wiping out entire communities.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. It's yes.
Yeah.
But we're all safe here. Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking. So anything you need? Any questions you have?
Oh, yes. Okay. So,
Sure.
I am excited. I'm signing my first shopping agreement.
Great.
For a series concept this week.
Cool.
And they were asking me how long of a period I wanted the agreement to be. And they were saying that 2 years is standard.
No.
I would prefer something shorter.
No, 2 years isn't
just
standard.
to educate myself to know what to ask for.
Yeah. I mean, basically, are they paying you for it, or is it a free option?
Well, the thing is, for the 2 years, they are saying it would be paid. And I think it was 2% of anticipated sales.
No. I'm saying, there's this stuff called cash that you can actually go and buy stuff with. And so anytime I'm writing a new book called Greenlighting Yourself. And what I say about such issues is I say, when they say you'll get it in the back end, they mean that literally. So, it's like never trust any of that money to arrive, And
Okay.
so so basically, I like if it's a free option or a shopping agreement, I say 6 months. I mean, if they can't get their ass in gear in 6 months, I mean, you can say, okay, look, if something actually is in motion, we can extend that by another 3 months, but at my discretion, your discretion.
Yeah.
But you don't because usually what happens, the longer term doesn't mean they work harder. What it means is they wait for 18 months and then or 20 months, and then the final 4 months they do something. So it's basically taken out of the marketplace for like 2 years when they're only really working for a few weeks at the end of it. So
one of the most important things in making these shopping agreements is first you say, where are you going to be taking this? What are your relationships?
Yes.
Because there are a lot of people who grab these scripts and they just sort of pile them up, but they don't have serious relationships and they don't have any history of having sold.
Yes.
And the less history they have and the less relationship that they can advertise to you, the shorter the term.
Right.
And and there's no standard.
Right. No.
You can demand whatever you want. And you can say,
go ahead.
I mean, if you want to give them a longer term, you put in the phrase non-exclusive.
Which means you can take it other places.
At the same time.
Right. And the other thing is you must absolutely have in the contract that they have to report where they've submitted it to and who they've submitted it to. Okay? And because otherwise you could submit someone who's already seen it, and that's not a great idea.
But there's a lot of phony baloney where things are tied up forever. I mean, past their prime. And so that's where you want to say, this is very exciting to me. What have you sold? Where are you going to be taking it? We can have a confidentiality agreement, but I need to know. Okay, but I need to know. And again, if they're not giving you upfront money and no back end, not for this. You don't do that. But the less the money, the more you can say. You can limit the time and have a non-exclusive agreement, so that it's not just sitting there and if nothing is happening. So, but if they tell you where they're taking it, then you can say, then if you tell me where you're taking it, then if somebody else comes along who's going to take it to not one of your targets, then I have that option, especially since you don't want to give me money. But you say it in a super nice way. I'm so excited, but and that's where we were once at a conference, a Writers Guild conference, and there was a very good female writer, and for a long time, she just floundered and floundered and floundered. And suddenly her career took off. And she started to make a lot of sales. And somebody said, well, what was the difference? When did your career really take off? And she said, oh, the day I decided to stop being a good little girl.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's unfortunately, in a very nice way, we have to be pretty, it's business. So, but congratulations, just put, just have that very nice conversation and say, I think the time is right for this. Who are your content? 2 years is just too long. But and if they're not offering you money, it's sort of like if they don't have skin in the game, they don't have enough in the game.
Right.
And if they don't have the ability to even pay you for something for an option, then what are they? What kind of producers are they?
Well, their exact words were they said, we don't feel it's appropriate to pay up front now because we're the ones with all the producers' credits. So I was like, but I'm not a producer. Technically, I produce like magazine content, not like, television and film. I'm a writer. Yes. And then they were like, but we assure you we can sell it in 90 days. So I was thinking of coming back and saying 90 days would be a great time to make the shopping agreement since you're so confident you can sell it.
Okay, you have a 90-day option, and no, it's not back end. And to say in terms of appropriate, Writers Guild has certain rules, and no, it's not appropriate to not pay the writer. I mean, that's such a terrible all the writers here, that is the worst mantra, and you hear it a lot. I'm very big, I'm very rich, I have all kinds of skills, but it's never appropriate to pay the writer. And I mean, all writers hear that. So it's sort of like, big smile. No, I don't feel that's appropriate at all. I don't see that as appropriate. But 90 days is fine. And what's the minimum option now, hon, for the Guild?
$10.
$10. So, to say $10, but get what you
Yes,
you know,
and with $10, you can make a down payment on a house in 1932.
but but don't accept back end. You should get Writers Guild minimum. If that's your, the guild does have some protections, and they've been working really hard to make good contracts. They've been putting themselves and their membership on the line to get away from those damn shopping agreements, those damn agent, packaging agreements, which were really wrecking the writers. So, trust the guild, and put everything in writing and say, this is very exciting to me, but I need everything in writing. And for them to say, oh, that's not appropriate.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Okay, yay. Okay, so Marcus, as you can hear, Mark is taking people around the block. So we'll put off Mr. Sci-Fi for a minute and go on to David Bartlett, who is next on our screen. Hello, David. Oh, problem? Oh, you can't hear me? Oh, what? Adam, what's the problem with David? Do you have any idea?
He says he can hear you.
Yeah.
Can you hear him?
Can anybody else hear him? No.
Not this time.
No, can't hear him.
It kind of froze. Well, I mean, everything's frozen on my end, but
wow.
It's unmuted.
Well, I see a mute thing.
You guys can hear me, right?
Yeah, you're fine. And Naomi was fine, but I see a mute symbol by David. David's muted.
David, it might be the mic that you're. It might be using a different mic or something. Check your settings.
Maybe you can use sign language.
Send him a message.
Or just, Mike, go over there and plug yourself into David's computer.
I am not fixing this in post.
Oh, what a bad man.
Yeah, you should just go back to him later when he gets it figured out.
Okay, we'll get back to you. We'll get back to you.
Yeah, we can.
Okay,
I can take my turn if you want.
Sure, good. Okay, Adam, hop in.
Hi. Hi, guys. I'm Adam Sartain, actor, voice actor, musician, and associate producer on Space Command. Yay! And also like kind of stage manager here on our Zoom meetings. So I just plumb forgot this week to send out the link early because I've been so busy. Earlier this week, I submitted some recordings for a audio drama that I've been cast in called Undead Radio, which is great. And just making sure you guys can still hear me.
Yes.
And then yesterday, I helped Kushik with a short film that he was doing, a short comedy that I got to star in as basically as the lead. So that was fun. And I got to go to the Batcave, so that was also cool. What else? And I'm signing up and auditioning for Jingle Ring to play a virtual Santa Claus this year, which I was actually planning on going into business myself to do that. And it turns out they've got this whole network and with, all the technology and all the advertising and everything. It was like, okay, I can just be Santa then. Fine. I'm okay with that.
That's
so,
great.
Yeah, that's
great.
what
we
I'm
knew
doing.
a fellow, he was very young at the time, and he was very heavy set. But he was still a kid, so he felt bad except for Christmas, and because he could be Santa, and so he was like one of the most popular Santas in his little community. It's and one little a little African American boy sat on his lap and said, "Why aren't there any black Santas?" And he said, "Oh, there are, but they're at the South Pole."
I love it. And that's another thing is they have they're recruiting Black and Latino Santas as well.
That's
and
great.
A lot of Mrs. Claus, which there's a lot of call for Mrs. Claus these days.
Great. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yay! Yes, there you are.
Yay!
Gotcha.
Now we can hear you.
Yes.
And
Okay.
then this is what I look like as Santa.
Yay!
Kind of freaks me out, Adam. I gotta say. I like Shrek better.
He keeps asking you to sit on his lap.
Don't go there. Don't go there.
I'm not going there.
Is there anything you need, Adam?
I mean, I'm not really. I mean, I'm doing pretty good.
Great. Well, it's good to hear.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. Yay.
For now.
Okay. Shall we jump to David since you've got your voice back?
Sure. I'm David Bartlett. I am a filmmaker, a teacher, and a human rights activist, and produced many parts of Space Command.
Yep.
And building a studio. I'm doing a shoot that's upcoming here very shortly of some of the scenes from the episodes 3 and 4, which is exciting. We're going to shoot something in our brand new studio for the first time, which is very exciting. And let's see, what else do we have going on? We have the crowdfunding fulfillment is largely under control for 6 campaigns. And that has taken us probably 5 years to get really under control. And it's very close to being, I can't say it's done. It's kind of the thing where it'll never quite be done. But it's definitely done to the point where we're really not having it loom over our heads like, some horrible sword ready to go. Excuse me. So that's exciting. We're building futuristic sets, including alien spaceships. If you like that sort of thing, there's plenty of room for volunteers and for some paid people too. I'm particularly looking for good carpenters. If you have carpentry skills, I can definitely help with have you help with that right now in our department. But we just hired a new PA, which is cool. She's getting paid, she's happy, and that's the way it works at Space Command. So the studio is hot, but it's not so hot as it was, thankfully. And it's 2 miles from the smokes. For those of you that think that the fires aren't really perilous here in Los Angeles, it really depends on where you are in Los Angeles. But that's all under control now too, thankfully. We had some very interesting blood red sunsets the last 4 or 5 days, which were very exciting through the smoke. But other than that, of course, it's a massive forest fire. So I think they've got it winding down, which is really good finally. So let's see, what else? I'm also in charge of the table email, temporarily at least. If you need help getting on the table email or fixing the table email problems you have, like I know Thane has a situation going on, you can send out email to me. I'm an email that I put onto the list there. Let's see here. Where's the chats here? Make sure it's still there. Is it still there? Yeah, okay, good. So somewhere up earlier, I put my email. So if you have any issues, anything like that, or you want to come down and take a tour of Space Command Studio and pitch in or work, you can email me there as well. So let's see, I have a 40-year background in professional filmmaking. I made my first film when I was 10, which was, a couple of days ago. And I've had, let's see, some of the biggest films made at the time I was involved with. Total Recall was the most expensive film I ever made. I worked on that. I worked on Pulp Fiction and Speed and Predator 2 and Hoffa and Tremors and a bunch of cool films. So then I stopped doing the studio films and I started working independent films of my own and with other people, and I now have 64 film festival awards. So if you're interested in working in great big movies at the studios and wonder what it's like there, or independent movies that win awards, I can help you with both of those. So we tend to do things in Space Command on a very large scale with a very small amount of money, relatively speaking. One of the reasons is I used to work with James Cameron when he was a production designer at New World Pictures with Roger Corman back in the day. when we had almost no money, but there was enough money. So I built a lot of sets with him, and Mark and Wayne and I and my assistant Vita got to watch one of those films the other night. I don't know about if got to is quite the description because it was pretty bad, but it was fun to reminisce about those sets that I built and the shoots that I was involved with them. And I got a lot of very cutting edge, low budget chops from that experience, and served me well over the years. So let's see. I'm going to dedicate myself to a new story every time I talk. A new story no one's heard. Okay. This is what I'm going for. So here's tonight's new story no one's heard. This is a true story. The stories I'm going to tell are stories I personally experienced, I personally heard firsthand from someone. So this is a story I heard from Warren Beatty. Okay, Warren Beatty, giant movie star, famous producer. People don't realize the magnitude of producing he did, especially on films like Bonnie and Clyde, where they had the first time someone was shot point blank on camera in the face. That happened, Bonnie and Clyde, and they almost gave it an X rating because of it. And the murder at the end when they die in a hail of bullets, these are just not done at the time. And he was very adamant about getting these effects because they told the story, and he's very, very good about telling stories. So one of my favorite films of his, and of my films of all time, is Heaven Can Wait. It's a really beautiful film. He co-directed with Buck Henry, and it's a pretty magnificent film. So the story is this. Warren Beatty said, the filmmaker is the last, I blew it, I buried the lead. The projectionist is the last filmmaker in the chain. That's the name of the story. So he told this true story. He's making Bonnie and Clyde. He was in post-production. He had seen Thane. Thane was a revolutionary Western of its time, and the guns in Thane sounded like cannons. They were bigger than life. They were violent. And he said, I want the guns in Bonnie and Clyde to sound like Thane. I want them to sound like cannons, bigger than life, huge. So he did that, mixes the film, takes it to London for a screening. The screening, the projectionist is playing the film low. It's not being played loud. So Warren Beatty, the star, biggest star in the day at his time, goes up on the projection booth, and the projectionist has the monitor turned all the way up so it sounds too loud to him. He says, you're not playing this loud enough. This is not the way we mix the film. And he says, well, I'll tell you something. I'll play this loud if you want to, but I haven't heard a movie mixed this bad since Shame. So that is a true story. So make sure you go to your screenings and get your film played correctly, because I guarantee you they won't, because the film festivals and the short films in particular, the levels of the mixes are all over the place and no one wants their speakers blown up, so it will be played lower than you imagine. If you want, I've got a couple little tricks that you can do that will prevent you from having a bad screening in a festival, because I've had some pretty bad screenings in festivals, and maybe I'll tell you the story of the Vail Film Festival screening I had one day. That's my story. So I think that's kind of it. I have a new resurrection of interest in fiction writing, so I'm going to do some of that. And it doesn't have any purpose. It doesn't have any target other than I want to do it and maybe publish some short stories. I'm not going to make it films or anthology or have any kind of a down the road purpose for it. So that's new for me too, because everything I have has got some kind of movie or TV show project in mind ultimately, though, including Space Command. Yay. So anyway, that's kind of my story.
Okay, yay! Thank you for that story. Oh boy!
You know, if you want to hear a film mixed bad, you can pretty much go to see any Chris Nolan film.
There's some bad mixing in Chris Nolan's films. There's also some amazing mixing. Amazing.
Well, if you want to hear dialogue, it's often bad mixing.
Yeah, you won't hear a lot of dialogue. If you want to hear dialogue, you have to see Ridley Scott's films. My brother is a mixer and makes a lot of Ridley Scott films, and he said, I need to hear the words. He says, that's why they're in the movie. Wow, how about that, huh? So he hears all the words in his movies, and I'm a big fan of that. So,
I am too.
Anyway,
I am too. Clarity. I hate it when the whole audience turns to each other and goes, "What? What did you say?"
Oh, it is. Yeah. And you have to watch out for the 2001 restoration that Christopher Nolan supervised, because he decided he was going to really emphasize some of those loud alarms and the music and things like that, and it really ruins the mix. So watch the version of sound restoration my brother did about 12 years ago. That's the one to watch.
Which film?
2001: A Space Odyssey. Little film by Stanley Kubrick. People might have heard of.
Yeah.
Here's the And
here's the trick getting good sound at a theater from somebody who managed movie theater or worked in movie theaters for 15 years, managed them for 7. When you go into a theater, the biggest problem that you generally have is you can hear everything except for the dialogue. The dialogue's really low. And if you go out there to whoever to talk to, they will have no idea what you're talking about. They'll go in, they'll say it sounds fine, they don't care. Just next time, go outside and tell them to turn the surrounds on. The minute they turn the surrounds on, the dialogue will immediately pop into place. 100% of the time, that's been the problem in my experience.
Great. Wow. Okay.
And matter of fact, when the people come into the theater with me now and say, it sounds fine to me, I say, I don't care. Just tell your projectionist or your manager, because they don't have projectionists anymore, turn the surrounds on. And within a minute or 2, boom, the sound is fine. That is
So normally by default, the surround sound is not active?
No, normally by default, the surround sound is on, but sometimes because you don't have projectionists anymore, you have the movie theater managers doing it, because projectionists used to be a paid gig. They were unions. They got a living wage. They got rid of that. Now only managers really do the projection machines, and they don't know anything about anything. They just know to go, well, it used to be thread the projector. Now it's a computer thing. And push a button. And sometimes if they bump into the projector or push a button wrong, it gets turned off. Mm-hmm. And so try that first and foremost. Go out there and say, just turn the surrounds on. And I've never not had it be the issue, although I've had to fight to get them to call upstairs and say it. Because they look at me like, well, you think you know what you're doing? I'll say, yeah, I worked in movie theaters for a long time. And yeah, you're just saying that. Because some people do that.
And turn the surround on and also back it up for 3 minutes while I was looking for you to turn the surround on.
Yeah, well, that would be nice. And actually now digitally, it's a little bit easier for them to rewind, but it's still kind of a difficult process. But when it used to be film, they couldn't do it. And if you ever saw what the platters looked like, you'd understand why. But yeah, you want to get good sound. Next time you have sound and you can't hear the dialogue, go out and say, tell them to turn the surrounds on. I've never not had it work. Now, there are some times when I have other sound issues and I don't know how to take care of that, but this is one that I'm pretty aware of. So
Okay.
give it a shot.
Great. 3 cheers. Yay.
Okay, so we're behind on Mr. Sci-Fi.
Oh, so give us a Mr. Sci-Fi question,
Yes.
Adam. You could have answered.
Let's get caught up then.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Ziggy, which I'm sure
Ziggy.
you're familiar with.
Sure.
Do you know when the next episode is going to be released?
I assume of Space Command. We're aiming to get the second hour of the pilot by Christmas. That's what we're all heading for. So Dave is always scoffing at that, but we shall see. We shall see. We're working on it.
And then I can deliver it as Santa Claus.
Yay.
As long as you don't say which Christmas.
Ha 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 ha. Very funny. You are such a wit. So who's next, Elaine?
It looks like Thane has popped up there.
No, wait, we already did Thane, sweetie.
Or is it Thane? Okay, so
Yeah.
then that would be Carol.
Carol Field. Go ahead. Go for it, Carol.
Hi, everybody. Happy Rosh Hashanah tomorrow night.
Hi.
Okay.
Blessings to you. Again, Elaine and Mark, thank you for last week. I really thought that to have a reel, you had to have a compilation of your stuff that you did last year, 5 years, a compilation of all the good stuff. You know, and I was going nuts. How am I going to pare this down? And you said, no, just go write something and be in it.
Yes.
It's like,
Great.
she's amazing. It just, sorry, Mark Gushowitz, because I was going to use you. But so that's great. 9/11 was last week.
Yes.
Yeah.
After it happened, I wrote something, and I totally forgot that I had it. It was published in one of my psychology journals.
Wow.
And can I read it?
Sure. Go for it.
Just a page. Okay, it's sort of interesting. Wearing 2 sets of glasses. I know. I understand. Called "If I Were an Airline Pilot." I wrote it, sent it in. They published it. When I was in psychology graduate school, we were required to take a battery of personality profiles. 2 of the tests, the MMPI and the 16PF, measured a number of traits, one of them being the determination of greatest career suitability. Interestingly, both tests came up with the same result for me, that the results were consistent with the occupation of airline pilot. I laughed at these findings and packed the tests away for a number of years in some obscure file. Then came the terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center, September 11th, 2001.
Mm-hmm.
I retrieved the old tests, and I ended up writing the following. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your pilot, Carol H. Field speaking. Captain Carol, welcome aboard Flight A1. I'm happy to report flying conditions are clear and dry, and we should be arriving in your city on schedule. Please turn off all your cell phones and pagers until we reach cruising altitude. I also have a few different things to say this morning, post September 11th, my good passengers. Let me start by saying our jet fuel, engine, and brakes have been electronically scanned and are in perfect working condition. Our rudders are the finest in existence. Spoilers, ailerons, and elevators have been recently replaced and are state-of-the-art. The fuselage and instrumentation panel have also been above excellent. Unfortunately, had to experience some pretty rigorous security checks today. Sorry about that. Your purses, pockets, socks, children's jackets were all frisked and examined like never before. Your suitcases have been x-rayed and checked out by bomb-sniffing dogs. We are getting by with nothing today, and here we are. When I started this announcement, the doors were locked and bolted. We are locked in. So we will be exiting down the runway shortly. With all this in mind, I must now say, if there are any hijackers aboard this plane at this point, there's nothing we can do about it, at least not with firearms, kitchen knives, pepper spray, or industrial box cutters. But we are 321 passengers strong. No telling what earring posts, brooch pins, ballpoint pens, or hairspray could do to one of these weasels. If they start up, we will get them. We will cover them with a blanket and sit on them and stick them with anything, anywhere. And we will scream. This will not be a time for eloquent sensibilities. Then we will kick, punch, and put to use our karate, kempo, self-defense, and Krav Maga adult extension classes. And kids bite away. Bicuspids on a weasel's cap can stop the whole operation. So, do you see how safe we are? Safer than you thought. And one more thing. As soon as I turn off the intercom, introduce yourself to everyone in your row. Tell them why and where you're going on this flight. Is this a business trip? A wedding? Is someone sick? Or are you perhaps rekindling an old love affair? And pictures. If you have any pictures on you, bring them out. Your parents posing on the cruise, your son's bar mitzvah, an old prom picture, your dachshund or cockatiel. This is good. Make a new compadre. There you go. Do you see how strong, indefatigable, actually, we are by just being us? Nobody can interfere with that force. And then, ladies and gentlemen, my passengers and new friends, sit back, relax, make sure your seats are in an upright position, that you are buckled in, and enjoy the first airline flight, the safest airline flight of the rest of your glorious lives. Over and out with love, your captain.
Yay. Yay. Great. That's great.
Because I freaked out afterwards, and writing that calmed me down, so that's okay.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I feel that. I get on a plane, I look around, and I've got sharp earring posts here. I have a pen in my purse. You know, I mean, I really think some little things like that can stop a whole operation.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
So thank you for listening.
Of course.
And thank you so much for listening. And I have one more question.
Sure, you bet.
There is an attorney who does seek out screenplays. He does have connections.
Yes.
But he charges you something nominal, like $100 a month to send your screenplays out. So $100 a month, I can understand. All right, he is doing work. Then it's like, does he really have incentive to collect money on the other side? I mean, I've heard about people. I heard Ramos Law does this. This is a whole new guy coming in doing this.
Well, I would find out if anyone he's submitting for has gotten anything optioned, gotten anything sold, gotten anything made. Because if he hasn't, then it's sort of an exercise in futility, because you don't know. See, basically, they read work from people they know. They read work represented by people they know, they being, whoever you're trying to reach. And if it's someone they don't know, some newcomer who has no standing, no legitimacy, it's not going to work. So so what I would say to him is, I would say, do you have a client list where I can do due diligence and see who's actually succeeded utilizing your service? And if he says no, then move on. I wouldn't do it, But
I think that.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
I think that's. Yeah, I mean, because I'm right on the cusp of, is this ethical or not?
It's a little.
I know he's doing work, and so you pay him for the work.
It's not ideal. It's not ideal. I mean, really, think about it. For it's like if you have a cousin who's a lawyer and he'll send stuff out for you, or if you have, it's sort of like, it's you need to figure out a way to get people to pay attention. And there's a lot of frauds in LA and in Hollywood. There's a lot of people who can't do anything, but other than just waste people's money. So there's basically two Hollywoods. One is all the people who are actually getting every movie and TV show made. And then there's this whole other superstructure of people who are getting actually nothing accomplished ever. And that is a much, much, much larger group of people. And so the trick always is, how do I get to be part of the people who are actually getting stuff made, getting stuff distributed, getting stuff out there? And that's really what it's all about, period. And so, it's just, there's a lot of bottom feeders who are just out there to get people's money, and
Gary is a lawyer, so you have to be careful what you sign.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I mean, that's difficult. We had an entertainment attorney who started to help us when we were sending out series, because she would take a percentage of the series. That made sense for her.
Yeah.
Some attorneys will take like 5% of your film budget.
Right.
But the thing is that the attorney that took a percentage of our series, she had made a lot of sales. She was tough. She was known. She was, she was very, very strong. She got very strong deals.
Yes.
But yes, a lot of attorneys who just forwarded, like, if they start asking for money, I would really see if he's actually gotten anything accomplished, whether he's one of the people who are listened to.
Yeah. So anything else, Carol?
Muchas gracias and Happy New Year.
Yay! 3 cheers. Another Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam?
You know it. We've got a question from Scott Gamble.
Great.
Who, it's a fairly long one, so I'll paraphrase.
Sure, please.
So since you're not going over to Kurtzman's Trek world, hypothetically, what would you do to solve the mess they got themselves into on Picard story-wise?
Well, see, the problem is that the show, if you watch, the moment the Seven of Nine appears, the moment that Riker and Troy appear, all of a sudden the show it changes its game, it changes its power and everything, because all of a sudden it's relationships, it's characters, there's some there. But because they introduced all of these other characters who you don't care about, you don't know about, there's no history there, and they're very problematical characters. There's this idea of doing edgy things where characters are very morally suspect. They've got all sorts of problems. You can't count on them. Well, the shows that have succeeded, the shows that we love, are the ones where there are characters that you can count on, whether that's the original Star Trek or Next Gen, or right in your favorite choice. I mean, you have to create characters in a very different way, and you have to cast in a very different way, and and they just don't. I mean, their whole sensibility is awry, and also because Patrick Stewart is 1,000 years old, it's sort of like he comes in, he sits down, all the other characters are doing the active stuff, and then and so it makes him more passive, less interesting. It's I think the real thing is watch Space Command. That'll tell you how to create characters that you care about, that you're invested in. And Sweet Haven, the new project that Elaine and I are doing with Rockne O'Bannon, that cast is 60 to 90s, and and there'll be people you care about, and so it's not age related. It's how you craft the characters and what they stand for and who they. I mean, you have to have characters who love each other. You have to have characters who are selfless. You have to have characters that aren't just in it for themselves. You have to have characters that mean what they say. I mean, those are your heroes. And more often than not in modern television, you don't see that at all. And so you feel distanced from the characters. It's sort of like, well, who am I supposed to root for here? Who am I supposed to care about here? And that makes it far more difficult to invest in the show. I mean, emotionally invest. And so And of course, if anyone wants to invest monetarily in Space Command, well, you can give me a call at 323-363-1259. Operators are standing by. But that's the answer to that. By the way, here's a cool thing. Many of you know that I was very good friends with Ray Bradbury. So when he was young, Ray did a painting, and he gave me a photo of the painting and signed it to me. This is his painting of the Halloween tree. And I'll show it to you guys. And it's signed to me right there. And so I'm going to be framing this and putting it on my wall. But it's really cool. And Ray, of course, wrote a book called The Halloween Tree, which is a classic. So that's that. So who's next? Who hasn't? Well, where are we?
Excuse me. Hi. I'm
Hi.
sorry. I don't mean to interrupt.
No, go
But
ahead.
my name is David Stamps, and I'm looking for an actress. I've been trying to email you guys for 3 days.
Really?
Really?
Is David Bartlett still here? I don't see
Yeah,
David.
he's right there.
Oh, there you are, David. Well, you can coordinate with David Bartlett, and I'm sure he can make that work.
What actress are you looking
What
for?
do you want?
A 39-year-old white woman who is the cross between Scarlett O'Hara and Baby Jane Hudson.
That's interesting. Okay, go for it. David will help you
Help
and
you set up, a
put out an
casting.
email to the table. Yeah, sure.
It's a paying gig.
I saw that email on the. It's
help you with
definitely been out to the table. Yeah.
David will help you with it. Okay, cool, great.
Great,
So,
okay.
do you want to anything else, David? I mean, David Stamps. Anything else?
Well, is there an email or something I should be using?
Yes. And so David Bartlett afterwards can coordinate with you and.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay,
I'll
great.
just wait to the end.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Three cheers. So Adam, is there
David Stamps.
Yeah.
My email's on the chat. If you want to check, I put it up there.
on the chat? Yeah.
David
So
Bartlett, yes.
right. So it's D-Waves at something, hippie.com or whatever. No, it's shit. And Adam, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yeah, let's go to this one by Arkansas Big Dog Hensley.
Great.
I think he's referring to the powers that be that control Trek.
Yes.
When he says you folks, because he's yes. Is there ever going to be a show just on Klingons, their home world, politics, day-to-day stuff?
I doubt if there'll be a show just with Klingons. That doesn't mean that one couldn't do fan films on Klingons. It doesn't mean that one couldn't do books on Klingons. Yeah,
Sitcom on Klingons.
I mean, there've been, in fandom, there are whole Klingon groups and Klingon weddings and people who learn the Klingon language, and but I doubt very much if they'll do a show just on Klingons, just simply because that's not a wide enough demographic. It's just and particularly the Klingons they've been doing lately are so peculiar. I mean, they eat people, etc. It's just really gone kind of really in a weird direction. So anyway, that's my thought. So who's next? Have we done Mike?
I think Mike.
Mike, how about it? Go for it. There you go.
Can you see me now?
Yeah. We can see you and hear you.
Okay, good. Hey, everybody.
Hi.
Mike Lopez, and I'm a former cop turned independent filmmaker.
Cool.
Not too busy right now. I've been doing a lot of editing, and I had this particular problem that I was doing. Where I was trying to take a day shot and turn it into night. And, I just decided that instead of doing that, I'm just going to go out tonight and take a shot.
Sure.
So I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Okay.
And then, I was going through some of my old photographs. I found this one here. I don't know if they can see that.
Not yet. You might hold it up a
Hold it
little,
up a little bit
more.
closer to your face. A little bit
closer to your face.
No,
There. Okay. Yeah. Okay. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
wow.
me when I was on patrol in Hollywood.
Oh my God.
How fun.
Can you tell which one I am?
I think. Are you the one in closer to us, or?
Yeah.
Cool.
I had black hair and a black mustache at the time.
That's great.
Right?
Yeah. And interestingly
That's
enough,
good.
that was the day that I ended up appearing on the Jay Leno show.
Huh. Really?
Yeah. I was on patrol. Me and my partner were on patrol, and we got this call of illegal filming on Melrose Boulevard, Melrose Avenue. So when we get there, son of a gun, it was Jay Leno
That's funny.
and his film crew,
Uh-huh.
and they were filming some Man on the Street episode. I guess they just decided to do it.
Uh-huh.
So I walked up to Jay and I said, Jay, you're not supposed to be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I'll tell you what, how about if I let you be on the show? And I said, well, in that case, I was easy to buy off.
That's funny. That's
I
funny.
believe that's bribing an officer.
Yeah, but it's
But
but that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
How fun.
Also,
Hey, Mike. So I'll give you a little trick for the day for night. You put it in your premiere for day for night. You bring something into nighttime.
Yes.
You want to do that? You're doing day for night, right? You're making a daytime shot into nighttime.
Yes, that's right.
So you lower the exposure, you crush the blacks, and you increase the contrast a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can also get someone to teach you how to do a graduation overlay on the sky, which is not difficult to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I saw about 3 or 4 YouTube videos on it, and I decided, you know what? Forget this. I'll just go out and take the shot at night. It just would make things.
Cool.
That way, all I have to do is open up the aperture.
Yes.
Which I can do. I can do that.
Yes. Good.
Right?
Good. So, anything else you need?
Yeah. Hey, Mark, have you ever? I started watching this TV show called Lucifer.
Huh.
Based on characters that were created by Neil Gaiman.
Well, and by the Bible.
Well, yeah. Well, this
Yeah.
is not. This is not the Bible.
Yeah.
It's a DC superhero, apparently.
Wow.
Well, so what do you think about that TV show? Have you seen it?
No, I saw Good Omens, which is another Neil Gaiman project, and it was okay. Not one of my favorites. Interestingly enough, Neil and I have been in communication the last few days because I was writing about the book he and Michael Reeves have been writing, and I wanted to get my facts straight. So, and I'm also going to approach Neil about being in the Showrunners Network, which is a project I'm doing. But I like Neil as a person. His work doesn't beguile me as much as it beguiles other people. And so I think he's talented. But to be fair, I've never read Sandman, which is supposedly his masterpiece.
Well, was there a specific question about that show or a concern you had?
No. I started sawing it, and I noticed that they were characters created based on him.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
I just wondering if you knew.
Yeah, no, I don't know Neil's work that well. I've read some of his books, but
He's a really nice man.
He's a super nice guy, though, terrific guy. But and I actually did a commentary with him on 2 of the Twilight Zone episodes when I produced the Blu-ray set, and that was great fun. So anything else, Mike?
Yeah, just one more thing.
Sure.
You know who Herman Zimmerman is, right?
Of course.
You know what? One day when I was on patrol, I got a radio call of a burglary. I had to go take a burglary report.
Huh.
And when I got there, knocked on the door, opened the door, and there was this man and his wife, and we started talking, and I took the report. And then at the end, you're supposed to ask him, so what's your occupation?
Yes.
And he said, well, I'm the art director for Star Trek, The Next Generation.
Yes.
I said, whoa, really? Yeah. He said,
great.
yeah. And as a matter of fact, I got a bunch of pictures in the back. Would you like me to give you some of them?
Wow.
I said, well, I'm not supposed to accept anything. He goes, don't worry, I'll autograph them and you won't be.
That's great. Wow.
He gave me
That's great.
He gave me a whole bunch of these pictures.
Wow, how cool. That's really neat.
All autographed by him on the bottom.
Wow, that's swell. That's really swell, Mike. Well, sometime when the pandemic's over, you'll have to bring those some evening, and I'd love to see them. So.
I'd like to put them in frames with glass.
Yes.
I don't know how to do that.
Wow.
But anyway, so
that's neat.
Other than that, if you guys need anything, any projects that have police elements in them, let me know. I can help you. I got the gears and
great
gear, uniforms, all sorts of good stuff. So
cool.
Just let me know.
Thanks, Mike. Yay! So, Adam,
And Mike, you can Mike, you could go to Michael's or any craft store. They'll generally have frames.
Yes.
You could probably find a frame.
That's right. That's
yes.
right. Yeah,
the main thing to know about framing is two things. One is make sure that whatever materials you use are non-acid, because paper and tape often have acid in them, and that'll destroy the thing you're framing. So you have to make sure it's all non-acid. Additionally, you want to keep whatever you frame away from humidity, such as like in the bathroom, like the shower, and you also want to keep things out of direct sunlight. Now, there also is a non-UV glass you can use that cuts down on the effects of sunlight. So so these are the main things to know. That's about it.
If you get the anti-reflective glass, it's very hard to not have the thing, wiped by light. And if you have non-reflective glass, that's very helpful.
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Cheers. Great. So is there a go ahead.
Our next question is by Jim Vim.
Great.
Who says Twilight Zone season 3? Any thoughts?
Well, yeah, it was great. I mean, the first 3 seasons of Twilight Zone were produced by Buck Houghton, who was really on Rod's wavelength, and he saw his job as bringing to fruition Rod's vision. And his taste was great. He had a great sense for casting, a great sense for hiring directors, everything. And so the 3rd season was terrific. There were many great episodes that season. Then after the 3rd season, CBS was delaying on renewing Twilight Zone. They were playing with the idea of expanding it to an hour, as they were doing with Gunsmoke and also with Hitchcock Presents. And by the time they finally got around to deciding that they were going to greenlight 18-hour-long episodes for the 4th season, Buck decided to take another job offer, and he also didn't want his whole career to be known as just Rod Serling's producer. So he was worried about getting pigeonholed, and so he moved on. And then they hired Herbert Hirschman to be the producer on the hour ones, and then after him it was Burt Granite, and then William Frug, who was the final producer on Twilight Zone during the fifth season. So the 3rd season is a terrific season. I highly recommend it. The first 2 seasons are spectacular. I mean, one of the best, if not the best TV show ever made, as you can read in the Twilight Zone Companion, which is a terrific book written by somebody. So, okay. So who's next? Nina, have you had your turn? I was out walking the dogs. Hi, go for it.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Hey, how you guys doing? Happy birthday to you both.
Thank you.
It was fun to follow you on Facebook. I've been resurrecting some stuff, which is fun.
Cool.
And unpacking and resurrecting. Found I'm an actress and a singer and a writer, and coming to myself as a writer just recently. So I'm looking into. I'm taking a course on writing assignments.
Mm-hmm.
To work with producers to just get into that milieu. Unlike some of the people I've listened to, you guys have these incredible ideas.
Thanks.
Fantastical. And as an actor, I felt as if my commitment and my ability, my imagination went deep, but not as broad as I would have liked it. So I listened to these amazing ideas you all have. I'm like, God, how am I get this stuff? I mean, it's just crazy, But you can tell me I'm living on the moon, and I will be on the moon and be there for a very long time. So, so I decided to kind of forego beating myself over the head.
Yes.
And use somebody else's ideas.
Good.
And see what I can do to generate some work on that for myself.
Yes.
And to use those muscles.
Yes.
They're different muscles. Using. Unburied my computer finally from my old computer, from my scripts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also looking for networking out here because I can't. I'm having no. I'll rephrase that. It's a challenge.
Yes. Where are you? Where are you located?
Chicago.
Yeah. There's several things. First off, if you're using other people's material, make sure that either you've acquired the rights or that the rights are public domain. Okay.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
And And in terms, there's an organization called Chicagoans in the Industry. And you might want to see if they have a web presence, an online presence, because that might be a great way to kind of put out the word and get some people who are, will be part of the community.
And there's a big batch of them that are out here that have.
Yes. And but I think you're on the right tracks. Sometimes it's basically all of us need to find what gets us into motion and gets us to completion creatively. Right. And there's a lot of different ways to get there, and I'm very fortunate in that I've had ideas as far back as I can remember, and so that was good, and the funny thing is that there are many ideas that I had and I kind of put aside, and some I come back to and some I don't. It varies, and then sometimes I come upon stuff that I came up with that I don't even remember at all. During the Kickstarter campaign, I found a file of outlines I'd written for different animated shows, and many of them I didn't know I worked on Care Bears. I didn't know I worked on, Captain EO, which was a Michael Jackson project. It was just like, wow, that's interesting. So, there's always surprises, but yeah.
Good for you for moving ahead. Yeah,
good, Nina.
And if you have trouble completing something,
yes, get an accountability partner.
Well, you have an accountability partner, or you can take like online classes. Because when Mark was moving out of animation into live action,
yes,
the schedule was killer because he was trying to write. While writing full time, he wanted to write, a
spec screenplay that I could then use as a sample.
So he went to UCLA Extension just to have the deadline, just to be forced to finish, because he was so tired.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, because it's just too hard to do in isolation, So yeah, I mean, just make sure that if you take a class from anybody, that they're not toxic. There are a lot of people who don't know how to critique, a lot of people who don't know how to be supportive. You want to make sure that there are people who are, they can be critical, but they have to be critical in a supportive way. And that's
constructive criticism.
Yes. And, because again, and that's true of everyone in your life. Anyone who's toxic, you have to cut them away, because it's just too hard to have someone in your life saying, well, what's the point of doing what you're doing? You're never going to make it. You don't have the talent, blah, 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 blah.
Well,
all of those negatives.
At UCLA, and of course, if you're taking classes online, it can be from anywhere. At UCLA, firstly, they had people who worked in the profession. So we would just
professional screenwriters.
Professional screenwriters. So be sure it was them. And then we would only we'd usually sign up for a couple of classes and take both and see which seemed more appropriate.
Yes.
Because there were the writers who wanted to teach, and there were the writers who just wanted to pontificate.
Right.
And they really weren't there for their students.
No.
And so you wanted to make sure it was somebody who wanted to teach and not someone who wanted to pontificate or who had had a lot of bad experiences. And so I would always end up dropping one.
Yes.
And the other one, both good writers, I would be able to stick with.
Yes.
Awesome. That's a great idea.
Cool.
Yeah, the accountability thing, you have to, it's hard to just show up for me in my hat.
Yes, yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm looking for stuff out here, people out here. I'll look into the Chicagoans in the industry. That would be great.
Great
idea.
Cool.
Because I'm just, when you don't know, you don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
Yes. So anything else?
No,
okay.
No, sir. No, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Yay. 3 cheers. Excellent. So is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam?
Yes. Our next question is from Gregory Krug.
Hi, Greg.
Another longtime commenter.
Yes.
Who asks, as a writer, what do you think was Ray Bradbury's biggest flaw?
I think that as he progressed, he began to believe his own press releases in terms of who he was. And so whereas for the first several decades of his career, he was just a spectacular writer, and he could write stories that were very, very dark or very, very hopeful. He could write the full gamut of things. But then as he went on, he was more and more working at writing Ray Bradbury material that became a little overly effusive, a little overly purple. And he still was able to write well, but he sort of fell into his own cliches in a certain way. and that wasn't necessarily a terrible thing. But if you read his writing from the 40s through the 60s, the early 60s, his work is astonishing, but through the 70s, 80s, 90s, into the early 2000s, it's weaker just because I think maybe he became too narrow in his exposure to life. He became, and this is a common flaw with writers, which is that if you aren't constantly exposing yourself to new experiences, new kinds of people, new places, it's very easy to get stale and just start repeating yourself. And
he got caught on two hooks. One was poetry.
Yes, his poetry.
His poetry was not great.
Every now and then he'd write a good poem, but Jesus, some of them,
they were a little inflated.
Right.
And then there were his plays, and a very good friend of Ray Bradbury's was Norman Corwin.
Yes.
Norman Corwin. Wonderful writer.
Amazing writer.
And we were invited very kindly to one of Ray's plays.
Well, Ray invited us, yeah.
Ray invited us to his play. So there was Norman and Mark and me.
Yes.
And Norman was very, very gracious, and the play ended and everyone applauded. And Norman looked at us and he went.
It went right over his head. And so he didn't get what it was about.
Yeah.
And so Ray wasn't a great playwright, but yeah.
But he loved doing it because he loved people.
But he was an amazing guy. He had a great heart. He was a phenomenal writer and for most of his career, and a great inspiration. So, I mean, he was one of the great, great people I got to know, and I'm very honored to have known him. So there you go. So let's see. Michelle, have you had your turn yet?
No, not yet.
Michelle, I guess you're up.
Michelle.
Go for it.
Everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yay. Okay. Yes.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You sound great.
Well, it's funny, I was listening to Carol talk, with that lovely speech about how people would react in terms of the flights, and people have brought down folks who were trying to hijack and everything. Yes. And on a much lighter but still a legitimate occurrence, the dance studio where I back in the day when we could actually still go to dance studios. Yes. There was a way of getting into the studio and walking almost virtually unnoticed to the dressing rooms, and people would stupidly leave their stuff in there.
Wow.
And a couple of the guys noticed that somebody walked through who shouldn't have been walking there. Uh-huh. And the general attitude is, well, they're a bunch of ballet dancers, When the cops arrived, the two thieves were tied up with various pairs of tights. Very nice.
Yeah.
That's your.
Yeah, there you go.
That.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Guys who lift women up for a living are stronger than your average person.
Yes.
So anyway, I am still working with the Closets by Design people. It's still interesting.
Great.
I'm probably be making notes on this because they're all different. Boy, howdy, are they different. But I now feel once again like I'm a living human being because I got a call from Central Casting about availability.
Great.
They haven't followed up on it, but there was a call saying, are you willing to take a COVID test? Are you willing to work with other people?
Great.
Yeah, boy, am I ever willing. You ain't seen willing like this. I would like to be more willing to get my body moving in terms of doing, even some bar exercises, but the air has been so terrible.
Yes.
So I feel it. Normally, I live up 2 flights of stairs, and normally I run up and down like a mountain goat. Yes. And now I can feel it. And I'm praying for wind and rain and so forth. Pretty much everybody I know seems to be near fires. My son is up by San Francisco, and the pictures he sent were unbelievable.
Yes.
And the street lights went on in the daytime because it was so dark.
Wow.
Which is just bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
And the good news is my best friend that I knew from grammar school, who has a pacemaker, is recovering from COVID. So people recover. And she said it really wasn't bad at all. And so be of good cheer, wear your mask, take care of business. Don't, wash your hands and all that stuff, but people do get through these things. She is
Wow.
not a young woman, and she is not in good health, and she came through it. So
Good.
yay for-
Well, mazel tov. So anything else you need, Michelle?
I need Central to call me and say they actually want me to work, but
Yeah.
other than that,
Okay.
I'm available for readings. My time is very varied, but I am, as far as I can tell, always free in the evening for readings or whatever.
Great. Terrific. 3 cheers. Yay. Excellent. So has David had his turn, Elaine?
Yes.
David has his turn. Did Mark a gush? What's happened? Mark, it's your go for it.
Okay, hello. How is everybody doing?
Good.
Interesting that every past job that I have had that wasn't industry related is being brought up tonight, from movie theaters to framing.
Mm-hmm.
And just a real interesting story about framing is I used to work for Aaron Brothers. I managed for Aaron Brothers.
Wow.
And, everybody would love to get Steven Spielberg's signature.
Huh.
And I actually have a Steven Spielberg signature, but that's not what this is about. So everybody would love to get Steven Spielberg's signature.
Mm-hmm.
And so this big Jewish foundation comes in, and they're going to have something framed that they are going to be giving Steven Spielberg as an award. And so when we framed the pictures at Aaron Brothers, a company that no longer exists, the managers always had to sign the back to sign off that it was a good job. And we never did it. We were supposed to. But on the Steven Spielberg one, I made sure to sign off on it. So Steven Spielberg has my signature hanging in one of his offices somewhere.
That's great. That's great.
So anyway, okay. So this is, for people who don't know me, I'm an editor. It's been a slow week. My main client, Yosemite, has been slow getting me stuff because they're dealing with, a lot of fires and stuff like that. So they're busy with more important things.
Yes.
It's been a very bad week for me. Starting off with the death of a pet, which was terrible. But then every day, something bad has been going on. So it's been really, really horrible. But that's okay, because once this week's over, hopefully things will get better. I want to get some advice from anybody who's ever been interviewed before.
Sure.
We basically about 2 weeks ago did an interview with a production designer.
Mm-hmm.
And Zoom decided, between Zoom and his mic, they decided to drop it. For people who don't know, I do a podcast called The Screen Forum where we go behind the scenes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so Zoom decided to drop out a lot of the words, and his microphone decided to drop out a lot of the words. And so I have this hour-long interview that I'm not sure there's very much understandable in.
Sure.
And I've approached my co-host about redoing the interview, and he doesn't like the idea. But I also, for me, I feel like, well, do I put up an interview that's kind of, it's not going to make the guy look good,
right?
Because you can't understand him. And so anybody who's been interviewed, what would you want? Would you want me to come to you and say, hey, let's redo the interview?
Yes. I mean, again, I've had that experience on a number of occasions where there was some technical difficulty on their end, and stuff got erased, whatever happens, and so then you say, yeah. Now, what you basically do is you level with them. You go back and you say, look, technically there were some problems, but you have to make sure that you do a pre-check to make absolutely certain that the second time it works. Because if they, that's interesting. David was holding up a cup of a bottle cap. Okay, great, fine. I think he's gone around the bend. But so there's too much face command. People, but just level with them. Don't try and say, well, don't make up an excuse. Just tell the truth.
Okay. That was going to be my next question, because, a lot of times when I'm on set or something like that, and an actor doesn't do the greatest take, what they'll do is they'll blame it on the camera so that the actor doesn't start feeling self-conscious. And I didn't know, because I feel like about 75% of it was his mic.
Yes.
And I said to my co-host, I'm like, should we tell him it's his mic?
Yes.
I don't want to insult him or anything like that, but I also don't want the same thing happening.
In future, always do a pre-check, and if the equipment isn't sound, then just make sure that you have a plan B. And that could be as simple as loaning them a mic, or it could be whatever. But But yeah, because the technical aspects of your podcast speak to your competence. Right. And so you don't want anything subpar, for obvious reasons. And
we've been getting really good reviews on our podcast.
Good.
Great.
Just so you know, yesterday I was talking to a friend of mine who's in the animation field. He loved your interview.
Oh, well, yeah,
he pointed you out specifically. But we've been getting real confident. And, I understand it's going to break up every once in a while. You hear it in podcasts all the time. But this was really bad. And I was kind of like, there's a lot of reasons why I want to get it up. Like in the last episode, we announced this guy was going to be there. But we can always tell people what happened on the podcast as well.
Yeah.
And I wanted advice because I've been struggling as an editor saying, okay, can I fix this in the editing?
Yeah.
Through? But the reality is even if I fixed it to the point where it was an okay, I don't want okay. And I know the person being interviewed doesn't want okay.
No.
My good.
So I mean, I would just level with him and redo it. Yeah.
There was difficulty with the mic, and make some notes to yourself if he, on the second interview, forgets a story that he told that was almost,
a good story.
Yeah, a good story, except it was almost completely lost because of the mic. Just say, oh, by the way, last time you were talking about, so you don't lose anything. So make a note of the ones that you like, and you can just tell them.
We'll also listen to the interview and see if there's questions you didn't ask that time that you want to ask.
Well, I already have a list of those because I went through the whole entire podcast to clean it up to see what I could save just in case.
Yeah.
And so I spent a day doing that. But and then I want to know if there was any advice for anybody who's used Zoom, because I'm not hearing any breaking up here.
No.
And in my writers group, I wasn't hearing any breaking up. So I'm wondering if it was the record button putting too much, as we record, putting too much on it, because I don't want to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
And I know it's not going to be perfect, but if I can get a 95% good interview, then we're good.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Zoom is very new to me, of course. And, I mean, you could put out an email to the table asking if anyone has opinions on that, or what you could do is with your partner who does the podcast with you, just do a Zoom test where you record it and then you see if you have problems,
Right.
But
well, I mean, like when we did we didn't have any problems.
No.
We did Steven Sears. We didn't have. Well, we had the regular problems, but not enough that when you listen to it, you're hearing anything.
Right.
Same thing with the last two interviews. I don't know what happened. Some people have suggested maybe it was his wireless signal. But then again, the other thing that I noticed is I didn't really notice any of this breaking up when we were doing the interview.
Yeah, it's. I mean, just. I mean, it's all a work in progress. Do your best and don't overthink it or worry too much. This is
pre-check.
Yeah. You're learning as you go. Yeah.
I just wanted to know if you guys would suggest me going back, because I mean, I feel wrong putting up, because I don't want people I interview to sound bad. Not only because I want a good podcast, but I don't want them to sound bad. It's just they did me this favor of being interviewed.
Well,
I want them to sound as good as possible.
One of my great credos that has served me extremely well over the 40 plus years of my career is don't suck.
Well, you actually, just for anybody who wants to interview Mark, he is a really good speaker. Like you talk fast, but you have a lot of really interesting stories, and you know how to tell a story.
Thanks. Yes.
And I'll put another thing out there, because in this really bad week that I've had, one of the bright spots was I was with David Bartlett for a couple hours yesterday, and he freaking knows how to tell a story as well.
Oh, great.
And he told me some great stories. And so that's what I want on the podcast. But if I don't get that, because I'm not going to, I'm an editor, I know how to work around it and massage it to make it all sound good.
Yeah.
But you can't do that if it's breaking up, especially if somebody says something along the lines of, I don't like something, and the word don't doesn't get recorded.
Right.
Now it sounds like I like something.
Yeah, no, it's I think it's pretty obvious what you need to do there.
Okay.
But
I'm just asking for advice.
But in future, just do, like the day before the interview, just do a tech check. Okay.
Right.
So you just call the guy and say, look, we're going to be interviewing you on Wednesday. By Tuesday, we'd like to just do a technical test to make sure everything is solid.
Well, I a friend of mine, my Talking Apes co-host, because he does now 3 podcasts.
Yeah.
He told me that I should plan to sit down with them for a half hour, go over what kind of mics they had and how they're going to record, because they want to sound as good as possible too.
Yes. Yes. Okay, great. Anything else?
So, No, that is it. When I was cleaning out the bunny cage, though, for you, Mark, I found something that I thought you might find interesting. I just don't know where I put it. I had a manuscript of a Logan's Run sequel written by William F. Nolan.
Huh.
Wow.
That was out of his printer because he couldn't sell it. He since sold it. That was signed, and I wanted to show it to you, but I couldn't find where I put it.
That's great. No,
So,
Bill's a
I
great
thought that might
guy.
interest you. Other than that, that I'm just looking for editing work. I have had some people recommend some people to me, so next month looks like it's going to be busy. Good.
Cool.
But yeah. Oh, in the short film, we are looking for another graphics person because although the graphics guy we got's doing good work, it's taking him too long, and we really want to move forward.
Good.
Okay.
So I'll probably put a note out on the table email for that.
Great. Okay, terrific. Well, 3 cheers. Yay.
Thank you for your advice.
So, Adam, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes, quite a few. Our next question is by Scott Baker, who asks, "How do you feel about the retry of Gary's 7? Would it have more transplanted human characters? Would it be allegorical for anything current? Would Andre Gregory play a role?"
That's interesting. For those who don't know, Gary 7 was a spin-off pilot that the original Star Trek did that starred Robert Lansing as an alien named Gary 7 who came to Earth to kind of do things surreptitiously. I think it was to help humanity. God knows, it's been a long time since I've seen it. But it's not. Roddenberry came up with a number of pilot ideas sort of when he was in the wilderness after Star Trek, and they were things like Spectre and Earth 2 and Genesis, whatever, and it was like they just weren't that great. And sort of I categorize Gary 7 in sort of that same general place, because it was like I love Robert Lansing. I interviewed him when I did the Twilight Zone companion. He's a wonderful actor, very distinctive, but I don't stay up late nights wishing that Gary 7 was a show, so it's I mean, if I wanted to remake it, I guess I could do it, but it doesn't really appeal much to me. So okay, so Adam, have you had your turn yet?
Yes.
He did. Okay, good.
Okay.
So let's see. Dave, did Dave have his turn? Dave Edison. Yay, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, good. That'll give me a break from working on this shot.
Yay.
Those of you who can actually just on the Zoom here, see on the Zoom, I've been looking up here, and it's not heavenward. It's I'm looking at a Space Command shot that I'm trying to fake.
Oh, great.
Trying to get some VFX in here without pestering, i.e. hiring VFX people, and shot's coming out okay. It might not just be good, it might be good enough.
Yeah, and this is why they refer to it as the visual stylings of Dave Edison.
Is it?
Yes.
I did not know that. Well,
yes.
There's the puppy.
Yes.
Those of you watching, listening on Mr. Siffy,
yes.
Can't see the puppy there.
Dog.
Is that the one that was hollering before? Were they both hollering?
They both were. They just nut out sometimes when we're taking them for a walk.
Yeah, you just got to spray.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think we're talking about getting them freeze dried, but we'll see. So, but please go ahead.
Anyway, so we're working on Space Command, trying to get this this next episode finished by the holidays, and if not, we'll have it close. We'll have it close, and it'll be something to look forward to in 2001. I mean, 2021.
There we go.
Go. I want to thank Mark and Elaine for watching Remember the Sultana.
Yes, we really enjoyed it.
That's a great piece.
It's the best documentary ever done about a ship sinking immediately after the Civil War.
But it was funny when they said that they put up the two writers, and then you was the editor, and I thought you probably belonged in that writer.
Yeah, you should have been listed as a writer too, with all the creative work you did on that thing.
I'm getting it together.
I did not write any of the words. I just pushed things around.
You did the magic.
But anyway, if you folks have Amazon Prime, as Mark said, it's about a maritime disaster, and it's the worst maritime disaster. And people talk about it's the greatest maritime. No, it's not the greatest. It's the worst maritime disaster in American history, and that includes the Titanic.
Yes,
it's about a Civil War sidewheeler steamship that was taking prisoners of war released from southern prisoners of war camps home on the Mississippi, and some palms were greased, and they had a ship that was supposed to hold not quite 500 people, and it was loaded with over 2,000.
Yes.
And a faulty boiler.
Yes, exactly.
Which is not a good combination.
No, usually
anyway,
not.
it's a very interesting piece of American history and a documentary that's on Amazon. It's called Remember the Sultana, and I edited it a few years ago. And one of the first films I edited is this, Shotokan Man.
Yes.
Which is a low-budget, independent animated feature.
Uh-huh.
And if you could find this, it was on Canopy, and I think it was on Amazon Prime for a while.
Wow.
If you can find this feature, I'm not sure that's a good idea.
But the Sultana is very good.
Yeah,
I mean, one thing that's great about it is that someone put together sort of oral histories from the people who survived while they were alive, and so it really brings it very vibrantly alive. You know, to hear these people talk about their individual experiences in that disaster.
I shall be back
Elaine's
shortly.
gonna take the dogs again. Yeah, go for it.
And they're descendants of the survivors. They're descendants of the people who died.
Yes.
And so it's a pretty interesting story. And if you can find it, you can find that on Amazon Prime.
It's fun.
Give it a look. It's about an hour and a half long.
Yeah, no, it's really enjoyable. I recommend it. So anything you need, Dave?
Now we're just gonna be shooting a scene or a day
on the
from
Paladin.
The third and fourth episodes.
Yes.
Week from Sunday, supposedly.
Yeah.
So,
and just
actually, I should be wearing my mask here, shouldn't I?
Yeah, and just to let everyone know, we're going to be starting to shoot Space Command, but we're going to do it with 1 or 2 actors at a time, observing all the precautions.
Very limited crew.
Minimal crew, etc. So again, we're being very cautious, and a
lot of times we'll be using cast and crew that are expendable.
Yes, exactly. People with gout and other ailments, and so forth. So yes, of course, and also twins, where if one of them bites the biscuit, no one will notice because there's another one hanging around.
Yeah, nothing but love.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so always nice to see you folks on these Thursday nights. The Mr. Sci-Fi people, thanks for listening in, and be well.
Yay, 3 cheers. Actually, Dave, my joke that I made a moment ago, one of the weirder experiences I ever had was one of Elaine's friends, her father died, and I went to the wake, and no one told me that he had an identical twin. And so when we went to the wake, there was the dead guy's photo on the ceremony, and there was a guy walking around saying hi to everyone who looked exactly like him. That was a very strange feeling, very, very strange. And
so you'll walk over to people. Can you see that guy?
Yeah, really. Yeah, can you see that guy? So pretty amusing. So anyway, so Adam, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes. Our next question is from G. Don, who asks, what do you think of A Space 1999 reboot?
It's funny because, again, it really, a lot of shows, it depends on how old you were when they debuted. So, for instance, the original Star Trek, if people watched it now, they might find it kind of creaky and strange. But, of course, for me as a 10-year-old, when it debuted, I loved it. And so it's really, implanted in my heart. And the same for Star Wars for people who were kids when that came out in 1977. So for those people who were kids when Space 1999 came out, it's a huge thing and they love it. For me, because I was an adult when I saw it, it's like, oh, this is sure not great. And we're working with Barbara Bain now, who of course was one of the leads on that show, and there's a fan base, and that's 100% fine. But I'm not eager for a Space 1999. Again, if someone does something brilliantly, like what Ron Moore did with Battlestar Galactica, because if you said to me, should Battlestar Galactica be brought back, the original one, I would have said no. But Ron did such a phenomenal job bringing it back better than it had ever been. So I'm not averse to that. And ironically, the producer who did that show is someone that I actually worked with, Jerry Anderson, who mainly did marionette series like Supercar and Fireball XL5 and Thunderbirds, and then he did a few live action shows, Space 1999, and the one that I wrote for, which was called Space Precinct, which is an extremely strange show. I think I wrote 4 of those. But there you go. So let's see. I'm looking for now. Steve Sasaki isn't there. Gino, let's have you take your turn, okay?
Hey, I knew you were calling me next. That's perfect.
Sure.
Hi, folks. See a couple of people that I haven't seen before, so we get the spiel. Hi, Gino. You guys, actor, filmmaker, comedian. Good day.
Back off the mic. Back off the mic.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I'm available for table reads. And also, if I fit specifications for a project you may be casting, I'd love to read through, be honored. On a table read, the guy, I'll say Charles Watson, he's not on tonight, but he was up for about 3 or 4 weeks straight. Did a table read for him about a week and a half ago. That really rocked. It was back on got to be back on the set yesterday, which was like the last couple of days. It was really, really awesome. And just Mark, as you were saying, in terms of the shooting the next portions of Space Command, with regards to managing COVID issues and whatnot. Are you, originally I was going to ask you this from my perspective, in terms of having a COVID compliance officer or something?
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, and I'm not concerned really because I own 8 spacesuits, so I can just get into any one of them and I'm fine. But, but no, yeah, we're going to do all the, because again, it's not, no TV show or movie is worth anybody dying, period. No matter, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's 2001 or Birth of a Nation or any movie that was ever made. No movie should have anyone die, period. And so, and that doesn't just include the actors, that includes everybody, down to the key grips and the PAs and, so forth. Yeah.
Do you want me to talk about the COVID compliance thing just for a second?
If you'd like, sure, you bet.
So my sister and I both took the COVID compliance course.
Yes.
And the very first thing they said was the COVID compliance officer can't be someone else on the shoot. It has to be a standalone position.
Yes.
Like the producer. So I'm like, oh, okay. It's a different person on the set. That's all they do. They're the first person there. They're the last person to leave. They're completely trained in how to handle the situation. They keep everybody 6 feet apart. They take temperatures at the beginning and put them on a list with a signature that they arrived at a certain time with the temperature. They have the rubber gloves. They have the face mask and all the accoutrement, and they wear a wristband that shows that they got past that point, so they're allowed to go into the studio. And they monitor all day long to make sure everyone stays 6 feet apart and all sort of thing. There are special garbage cans that have sealed the lids that flip with your foot open, and there are a number of other things, but it's a whole conceptual procedure. And someone that's going to be hired on our shoots to do that and take care of that. And even though we're compliant, we will follow their lead. That sort of thing. So it's taken very seriously. And every 20 crew and cast combination of numbers of people on the set has to have one COVID compliance officer. So Ben Skinner is just recently, one of our friends at the table, produced a live show on the internet with a reality show with 160 people.
Wow.
So he and 2 other producers actually managed the COVID compliant officers as a team, like a separate individual shoot under the other shoot.
Wow.
I mean, it's a big deal. It's being taken very seriously. So, and that show got shut down. They weren't compliant enough.
Wow. Yeah.
They said, you're not doing that.
Yeah. So, and we can hope that same thing is true of all the reality shows, frankly, that they all get shut down. That'd be fine. And so, But yeah, so anything else, Gino?
Yeah, a couple of the things on that. Well, I know. Well, I certainly need to go back, through the compliance rules.
Yes.
More thoroughly, but I would need to supply COVID testing before even showing up, right?
Afterwards, if you want to talk to David, he can go into all the specifics of it. I mean, I think basically, if you just get a couple of big size garbage bags and tape them together and appear wearing them, I think you'll be fine. And no, but seriously, I mean, yeah, David's taken the class. I think you can just talk to him and find out the ins and outs of all of that stuff.
Oh, okay, sweet. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yay. Do we have another question for Mr. Sci-Fi, Adam?
Yep. And if he's busy, you can always contact me.
Great.
I also have taken the class.
Yeah, and you look hale and hearty. So great.
Thanks, Adam. Cool.
So, and I have a clean bill of health. I just had a COVID test myself.
Wow. Yeah.
Came back negative, so I'm good.
Congrats.
Thank you. So, as to our Mr. Sci-Fi question, we have another question from G Don.
Yes.
And a bunch of people are talking on this topic. What do you think of the new Dune trailer?
It's funny because I want to love it. I thought Blade Runner 2049 was swell. That's my book on Blade Runner 2049. The Arrival was certainly an interesting movie, or whatever. I guess that's what it was called. But I wasn't blown away by it. I thought it was okay. But, David Lynch's version of Dune gets slammed a lot, but he had a really great eye for visual detail. And although the film is extremely funky, it has a terrific cast, and it's got great visual stuff in it that's very different from Star Wars and Star Trek. So, Denis Villeneuve is extremely talented, and I hope the movie is terrific. I'm not a big fan of Timothée Chalamet. I don't know why. He just, it's like, nah. But we'll see. I'm absolutely willing to give it the benefit of the doubt. I've read Dune several times, it's a very, very strong novel, of course, and a friend of mine co-writes all the Dune sequels with Brian Herbert. So so I'm rooting for it, and we'll see what we see. So there you go. So let's see, Steve Sasaki, go for it. If you haven't had a turn, go for it.
Hi, thanks. I guess coming up on the 19th, that short film script that I wrote it was a winner, and the prize is a table read. So on the 19th, it's going to be table read, and I guess they'll edit it and post it. So that's exciting, and looking forward to that. But I think my question is, it seems like the next step is to try and get a manager. And I think I have ideas of, ways and, looking at probably a junior type person or, some sort of entry level. But sure. I'm open to any suggestions as far as.
I mean, it's always what's going to cut you away from the herd. I say this often, and people don't really take it to heart. But if you started a podcast where you interview agents and managers, you would get a great agent and or manager because you would be talking to them about what they do. And you could even say, you could call any agency in town and say, hey, I'm starting a podcast where I talk to junior level agents, and we talk about what that experience is like. And these people would be happy to talk to you because they never get interviewed, ever. And so, because the trick is, if you just contact agencies and say, hey, I'm a writer and I've got a script, or I'm a whatever, and they have a project, they'll blow you off because why should they treat you seriously? And, so again, it's what's going to get them to even pay attention, And, but if you have ideas as to what might work, try it, yes, and see if it works. But just be aware of how many people besiege all of the agents and all of the managers all the time. And, But the good part is that everyone is on Zoom nowadays. One thing I would suggest is if you set a meeting with one of these people, you do it via Zoom rather than on the phone, because again, the more that you can see people and talk to them directly, the better, So, other questions?
Do you think it's advisable is that probably the next best step forward, getting a manager, or?
It helps. It helps. Anything that gets you into the swim of things, because again, as I said earlier, there's people who are treated with respect and their opinion is valued, and people who are totally blown off. And so if you can affiliate with someone who's already got the ear of the people who buy, that's a good thing. One thing you might want to do, Steve, this is something I actually would suggest, is I would go down the rosters of all of the agencies and see if there are any Japanese American agents or managers. Okay? Because that's going to at least get them to be willing to talk to you. Okay? So I would start there. I would start there, because they're probably going to take your call, and they're probably going to give you the time of day, and they might, so I would just see if that works first, because again, commonality works, and etc. So that's what I would suggest.
Okay, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Cool. Well, good. Let me know how it goes.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay. Yay. 3 cheers. So, Adam, do you want any more Mr. Sci-Fi questions?
You were talking about Klingons earlier.
Yes.
And Knox 5555 asks, are you planning a warrior race type for your show, for Space Command?
Yes.
If yes, are you going the comical Viking route they used for the Klingons?
No.
Or are you looking for real world examples like the Maori or the Sikh?
What we're doing with our aliens is making them extremely alien. We don't have any humanoid aliens in Space Command, period. And so the aliens we're building now are 8 feet tall, among other things, and really, really alien. We'll see as we go. And then there's another race that's even stranger than that. It's kind of like we're dealing with, initially we think of these guys as warriors, and then we come to realize they're refugees. It's going to be an interesting mix of characters and traits and so forth. Well, that'll be in Great Solar War. We're introduced to this species in what we're shooting, ramping up to shoot in Forgiveness, the second 2-hour story. But there'll be surprises ahead. But the Klingons, it's interesting because initially they were basically space Russians, in the original show, and then in the movies they were, whatever the hell they were. And then in Next Gen, of course, in the later Star Trek shows, they became space Vikings. And, so it was an interesting evolution. And of course, in the original series, they looked like humans. And then in Star Trek, the motion picture, they looked like the Klingons look more or less now. And the Mark Leonard played the captain of the Klingon ship in Star Trek, the motion picture. And he also played Spock's father. And he also played a Romulan commander. So he got to play a Romulan, a Vulcan, and a Klingon in Star Trek, so that's not bad. And but there will definitely be aliens and warriors and all sorts of stuff. So great. So let's see. Lydia, are you there? Are you able to chime in? I don't know if she's there. I just see connecting to audio. So
we've had a lot of problems with her.
Yeah, Lydia,
with her
are you able to check in? No. Okay. Oh, wait. No problems. Okay. So great. And then there's someone 1915, whatever it is, and I don't know if they wanted a turn. I don't know who that is, but we do have Elaine. Elaine is here, right? I think everyone else has had a turn. So yeah, let's do you, Elaine.
Did David Stamps get a full turn?
David Stamps had said what he had to say, I believe. So
yes. Okay.
I mean, yeah. But why don't you take your turn, Elaine? Go for it, Elaine.
Yay.
Make sure everyone's gone, Mark.
I'm sure everyone's gone. I think so. If someone has
there's
that.
David.
Yeah, you had.
Hi.
Yeah,
Hi,
David, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
besides needing an actor? Do you have something?
I've just been about needing the actor.
Yeah. No. Well, you already mentioned that. Is there anything else you need?
Well, I'm in the midst of doing a Zoom reading on September the 26th.
Great.
And my script is just too long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I just did a rehearsal and it was 3 hours.
Yeah, you want to cut it down.
How many pages is it?
It's 107 pages, but it's it's where hip hop meets the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So it's got rap, it's got original songs, it's got spoken word, it's got poetry, and so I have to cut all of that down.
Yes, and so because you want to get it down to about 2 hours if you can, to make it tolerable.
I want to get it down to an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah. Right. So I'll tell you several different ways you can do that. Obviously, you can go and just cut stuff that doesn't work or that you feel is weak. That's a good starting point. You can look at which characters kind of are similar to other characters where like you can combine them and you don't necessarily need a character, or you can strike them out. But when it gets to really cutting something in a major way, here's a trick that I invented. Years ago, I wrote a pilot for ABC and it didn't get made, but oddly enough, I was contacted by a German company and they wanted to make this pilot, but they wanted it to be half the length. So in other words, rather than being an hour pilot, they wanted me to cut it down to a half hour. Now they were ABC paid me for the hour version and the German company was going to pay me for the half hour version, but I had to cut a script in half, and that's extremely difficult. So what I did was I took, they have brads, brads that hold a script together. So I took out the brads and I made one pile that was just the even numbered pages of the script, and the other pile was odd numbered pages. And then I put the brads back in and I read each script as if it was a freestanding script. And what it allowed me to do, because I found that there were many scenes where a page was taken out and you didn't even notice. And so it made it very, because that way I wasn't trying to squeeze something down. I had 2 half-hour scripts and I just had to see what needed to be put in to make it make sense. And so it actually made it very easy. So if you did something like took out every third page, that might be a very interesting experiment, because then you would be able to see what it needs and what,
Another way of doing it that's a little less technical, crazy, is if there's someone who, in terms of the way they like story, is very much on your same beam, take them out to coffee and tell them the story.
Yes.
Tell them the story, the heart of your story, from the point of view of the characters. What is the emotional journey we're following? And I mean, one thing, I hate pitching, but the one good thing about pitching is when you have to do your log line, which I hate having to create, is you're reminded of the heart of your story. This is at core about. Now, I get really entangled with the frippery, with the cute scenes, with the clever dialogue, with the, I love this little character. What is this character? How does he advance your plot? Well, I just happen to love this character. And so I always end up having to cut a lot of frippery. They're just so clever. I love my wit, but it has to go. So sometimes if you just tell someone the heart of my story, the theme of the story is this, and my lead characters star here, this is what they need to give them a full life, and this is how it happens. Sometimes some things that you're in love with can just go away, put them in an envelope and use them somewhere else, if they're really cool. But that's what helped me the most, getting the through line of the story. What at heart this is about. And if you've got a really cool scene that doesn't...
If I can just tell you a little bit about the story.
Sure.
It's about, here's the pitch line. Here's the elevator pitch.
Okay.
What would you do if you found out that your mother was murdered the day you were born, and you have to go through the deep, dark world of voodoo to catch her killer?
Huh, that's fun.
So because this is hip-hop meets the Twilight Zone, you have a lot of supernatural voodoo stuff going on.
Yeah.
got a lot of flashbacks between the mother and daughter, and they come together in the end to deal with the antagonist of the piece.
Another thing you can look to is see what really serves the plot.
That's what I was just talking about.
So because again, a lot of stuff kind of veers off generally when one writes a script, and you just have to, the more it stays connected to the characters and the plot, the better you are. But you should be able to do this.
So if you really say, okay, this person has got to solve the murder. Funnily enough, we actually met a writer whose
mother was murdered.
Who was finding his mother's killer. It was
there you go.
It was like they said, oh, I wrote this story about a fellow who's finding his mother's killer. We said, well, what inspired you? And he said, well, my mother was murdered, and I went on a hunt. I went, oh my gosh,
and he went on a hunt for the killer. And there you go.
And succeeded.
Well,
But the thing is that if you say, okay, so a lot of random things can happen, but if you use have you ever heard of the rule of because?
What's that?
Oh, it's this happens, and then the next thing happens because the thing before happens, and because the thing before happened, the next thing happens. It's like cause and effect. If this hadn't happened, then the next step wouldn't happen.
So it's not a lot of random action.
You know, there's no random. It's like this happens because this happens. And one of the things that one of the stories is, a guy wakes up, he sleeps too late, he's late for work, he missed out on breakfast, he stops a bad out of town to grab something last minute. There's a robbery. There's a girl who can't get home. She has no money, and he ends up driving her home, being really late to work, that kind of thing. Okay. So a lot of random events. But then if you say, well, here's a fellow, his whole life he's been a good little boy, and he's just completely sick of it. And because he's so sick of it, for the first time in his life, when the alarm rings, he turns it off and sleeps in. But because he's still a good little boy, he wakes with a start and he runs off without breakfast. But because he's so sick of himself being a good little boy, he says, to heck with it, I'm going to be even later because I'm starving. I'm going to stop in the bad part of town and just grab a bite because it's a good cafe. Because he's in the bad part of town, he ends up getting involved in somebody robbing the place. Because he's involved in that robbery, he meets a girl who doesn't even have the money to get home. Because he meets this girl, he throws away the whole day because for the first time in his life, he's stopping a good little boy. He's doing what he feels he ought to do for himself, and he takes her home. And because he takes her home, he finds out that her life is even more screwed up than his. And because he's finding out that taking control of your life is very important, he gets involved in her life. So because it's the same story, but you find that there's a driving through line. So unfortunately, with something with that music and that kind of, and when you go into all of that, with voodoo and everything else, it's such a rich field that you could start throwing like all kinds of just incidental scenes at your characters. And so you say, well, I've got to get rid of some really cool incidental scenes just because they're cool. I have to think. I
don't want to interrupt you, but it was a play. And so it's dialogue dense.
Okay. Okay, well, that's very interesting, and that's very important.
I have an idea.
Yes. Yes, David.
I was going to say this anyway, but it would work now because it's a play. Well, first of all, screenplays are a visual medium, so you got that going for you. But one of my favorite screenwriters is William Goldman. He wrote the Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and Maryland Man and some amazing films. His concept was that you start as far into the scene as you can, and you get out as soon as you can.
Yeah.
So all that stuff from the beginning part and the ending part, you can just cut that out. And if you only do that, especially if it was a play first, and make the expository dialogue happen in a visual sense, you might cut out a half of your production right there.
See,
right.
Still tell the same story.
I should write that down. Say that one more time. Hold on just a second. You said come in as late as possible.
You start as far into the scene as you can. So you cut out all that intro stuff, especially in scenes that happen after about 20 pages in. The first 20 pages you can kind of get away with. After that, people already know. Then you get out of it as soon as you can.
Yes.
And then you said something about the expository dialogue.
Expository dialogue, you have to turn it into visual storytelling.
Yeah, cut expository dialogue as much as
People
possible.
can't talk about things; they have to see them.
Never have a character start something with "as you know," because if they both know it, why are they talking about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the one great rule of writing, the one rule of writing that I adhere to is be interesting. You know, I mean, that's the one, that's the big one. And because if you're interesting, your audience is going to pay attention. If you lose them, if you bore them, if it's too slow, you're done. So so thank God you know that you need to cut it by a third. That's really important.
It's easy to fall in love with language. I wrote an exercise. I was in a directing class. I wrote an exercise, and I had the character. The character came in, good actor, and I had this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful speech written, long speech, beautifully written. And he said the first line, and then he kept on talking, and I thought, wait a minute, he said what I needed him to say in that first line.
And so so she
And
cut the
from
rest of it.
then on,
Yes.
it was jibber jabber, jibber jabber.
Right,
Oh,
yes.
so pretty. But he'd made his point in the first line because he was a good actor.
Right.
And after that, the energy just drained away.
Right. Yes. Okay. So there.
Got you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I'm
You're
going to
welcome.
use all of this. Thank you so much.
David, 3 cheers. Is there another-
David Stamps, just want to mention this this table meeting will be archived on YouTube. So if you want to revisit this discussion, go to today's table meeting on YouTube, and we're about 2 hours and 10 minutes into the meeting. This discussion takes place.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Dave.
Great.
Thank you.
Terrific.
By the way, very cool name.
Yes. Good. So Adam, is there?
Thanks. I picked a good one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still here, but I'm going mute.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, David. Thank you. Adam, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes. There's a question from Scott Gamble.
Great.
Who I think is asking a clarifying question.
Okay.
You talked about earlier about the Care Bears and Captain EO credits.
Yes.
Were you saying you just don't remember working on them?
Right.
Or that IMDb gave you a credit for shows you actually
No, I
did
worked
work
on them. I worked on them. I once I saw those things, I remembered that I did them. But it was that I wrote so many different shows in such a quick amount of time. I mean, literally, there was one 3-month period where I wrote 9 scripts for 6 different series, and they were all, everything I wrote was getting made. I mean, all of the Care Bears thing. God knows what happened to that. And Captain EO was a project that didn't ultimately get made, but they hired me and I think Michael Reeves to write that outline. It was an outline for a feature, I believe, animated feature. And so I mean, it was just interesting to come upon all this material and see all this stuff I'd done that had
Whatever became of you?
Me?
Yeah.
I ended up just kind of sitting on my sofa and just dreaming my dreams like Don Quixote. But
I remember.
Yeah, so now, if memory serves, it was Elaine's turn. Go for it, Elaine.
Actually, we forgot Heidi. Heidi hasn't taken her turn yet.
Haven't you? I thought you had Heidi. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go for it, Heidi.
Yeah, you got me already.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We did.
We did. I thought so. Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
great.
all right.
Then
So-
Elaine it is.
Elaine, okay. Okay. So I finished the rewrite on the piece that Mark had gotten out to a potential buyer.
To Amazon.
That was to Amazon. It was a big relief because I kept promising every day, I'm going to finish this rewrite tomorrow,
Yeah, it's a
and then I'll get
pilot.
on to Space Command. I'm
Yeah.
going to finish this rewrite and I'll get on to, But unfortunately, I had misremembered how much rewriting it needed. So it took a little longer than I'd hoped.
Yeah,
but
2 hour backdoor pilot.
yeah, 2 hour backdoor pilot. So
Mhm.
I finally finished that pass, and we got it out. So I'm finally back aboard
Space Command.
And so the only other priority is Voiceless Roar.
Yes.
The piece that I want to really put on its feet and direct, and we have Michelle Hart in it. And so if anybody is looking for the resurrection of the American dream and the respect of the small town, that's the backbone of Americana.
Mhm.
If anybody knows anyone who would like to produce or give money toward that, let me know. And that's it for me.
Yay! So is there a final Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam?
Believe it or not, we are all caught up on
Wow.
Mr. Sci-Fi.
How sad, how sad. So, okay, so then it's me, wonderful me. It's my turn. Yay, 3 cheers for me. A lot is going on. we're ramping up to shoot, much more of Space Command, and most of the alien ship is completed, the interior sets. We're building a hospital set, all sorts of stuff. We have people generating VFX. We're in post-production on the second hour of the pilot, moving through that, have I'd say more than 70% of it done. And I'm also writing the new book, Greenlighting Yourself, which has already sold. I just have to write it, and that'll be coming out. I talked to my editor / publisher, and fortunately, because of the COVID pandemic, they aren't going to be releasing it till late 2021 or 22, which is fine because it gives me the time that I need to actually write it. What else? Sweet Haven. I'm creating something called the Showrunners Network, which is 6 pilots and 6 series that I co-create with 6 major showrunners. So the first is Sweet Haven, where everyone under 60 dies and the people 60 and above have to save the world. And so we're planning this. We're scheduling the table read of that. And Elaine and I have written the pilot together, and Rock Neil Bannon and I are creating the show. And Rock has created Farscape, Alien Nation, Sequest, Defiance, Cult, and is currently on the show Evil as an executive producer. So fun. And Mark Fergus and Hawk Ostby, who wrote Children of Men and Iron Man, and created and run The Expanse. They're aboard for Fugitive Space, which is the second show. And I'm in conversation with Rod Serling's daughter, Jodie, to do a new Rod Serling series called Rod Serling's After Twilight. So we're continuing those conversations. And I've come up with an idea for a show that involves the work of Kurt Vonnegut. Mark Fergus was very interested in pursuing that. So I'm going to go after those rights and see what happens. And and then I have an idea for a project based on Ray Bradbury's work. So I'm going to get back in touch with his daughter, Alexandra. And it just keeps going. And let me think if I'm forgetting anything. And there's Mr. Sci-Fi. So I'm continuing to do Mr. Sci-Fi things every few days. And our dog has his squeak ball. So so all is right with the world. So anything? Have I forgotten anything major?
We have what that was.
Yeah.
We have a bag of balls.
Either that or it needs oil.
Yeah, well, we have a bag of balls on the door, and he's learned how to jump up on the couch, jump all the way up onto the top of the couch,
pull the bag down,
stand up and pull the bag down and empty the bag of balls.
Yes, of little miniature squeak balls.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So yes. So but I mean, life is really fun right now. I've been putting things up on the wall behind me because there've been a number of things I've wanted to put up, including the Halloween tree, the Ray Bradbury, which I've put in a frame now, and so things are exciting. Things are good. Just giving Dave notes on this one sequence in the second hour of the pilot, and it's all moving ahead. So it's very, very exciting. So is there anything else anyone?
I think you'll be pleased with the shot I've been working on during.
I love it. I think it looks great.
Yeah, if you know what's good for you.
I think it looks very much like you, Dave. And I've been, so.
And how good could it be?
Yeah, but thanks for everyone. Thanks to the Mr. Sci-Fi fans. Thanks to the table. Life is very, very good, and it's thanks to you guys that it is. And of course, thanks to Elaine, who makes every day a great day, because she's the center of everything that I care about, really. So, and for those who don't know, we've been married 43 years and together for 44. And we just celebrate our birthdays, and we're 140 years old. And life is great. Life is great. I wake up with a song in my heart, which is sounds like Eddie Cantor, but that's fine by me. So, and okay, great. So we'll talk again really soon. If anyone needs anything, you know where we are. And we're here next Thursday, as always, at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. And have a great week, and stay safe and stay healthy, guys. We'll talk next time. Okay.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Bye, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
And I'll be sure to get out the link a lot earlier.
Okay, great.
There we go. Okay. And